Xiao has just received this old man's heaven-attracting burning thunder. She is injured and cannot go far. Immediately pursue. We must find her. Grandfather Li's words were strict, unfolding his paper fan. Song Feng and the others promptly used their escape techniques, but the goose feather heavenly wolf's speed honestly was too fast. If it was fleeing, it would be very difficult to follow. Indeed, a little while later, they already lost all traces of Xiao. Yi Futa's face wore a smile as looked at everything in front of him, somewhat aloof. Bingxin, are you alright? Magnificent starwood dog of well how Bingxin took a deep breath. The silver snow sword stuck into the ground, and the girl puffed her cheeks. She was somewhat unhappy. If it was not for this old monster's attack, she definitely could fight Daredevil third brother to her delight. While she may not have been able to defeat her, it was better than holding things in. The earth rank technique that she had comprehended with great effort was not even used yet. Tai Sui, it seems capturing Xiao is not so simple. Yi Futa said. Against a martial general that possessed a beast with these kinds of capabilities, Yi Futa did not feel at all that just defeating her could sign a contract. And if we had a magic weapon that could trap Xiao, then this would be far easier. Song Feng nodded. Han Bing at this time spoke expressionlessly. Is the most urgent matter right now not to go to the Azure Dragon territory? The treasure banquet is about to begin. Han Bing appeared to not be very concerned about her own double stars. Ling Feixue alone was already satisfactory. Perhaps there would be a good magic weapon at the treasure banquet that can make Xiao die without anything left. Shi Jiuying sneered. Yi Futa struck his palm. I actually know of such a treasure. Emperor Liang has an along the river during Qingming painting that can trap people. Even a top-notch star general cannot escape it. Everyone turned inquisitive gazes to Grandfather Li. The White Tiger 7 Spirit Stars treated this old man as their only guide. Zijin, your opinion? Grandfather Li did not answer. He turned to smile and inquire the calm woman beside him. Zijin does not have an opinion. The woman calmly replied. Then good. We cannot miss the treasure banquet. Let Xiao remain free and unfettered for now. There will be many places at the Azure Dragon territory where we will need to trouble you, Yi Futu. Grandfather Li faintly said. This is something your servant ought to do. Yi Futa smiled. Muslin fluttered, silk unraveled. Her beautiful figure was wonderful, an incomparable youth. Efficacious star divine physician, and Yuwen looked like an absolute beauty at the moment. Her slender fingers gently moved to and fro, each and every movement full of tenderness. A faint light flickered. In front of Yuwen were the child and mother-linked heart's needles arranged into a star array. She was unlike other medicine refinement masters. The tool that Yuwen used to refine medicine were 5 of the needles, each representing one of the 5 elements. 5 multicolored rainbow lights drew the outline of a cauldron, with starfire rolling within. Efficacious star's star beast good fortune was nearby, its mouth spitting a green light. This light was like a canopy that wrapped around the child and mother-linked heart's needles. Not only could it substantially improve the probability of Yuwen's medicine refinement success, the medicine she refined would be full of pure spiritual power. No other medicine master in Liangshan continent could compare to this. Minute beads of sweat slid down Yuwen's forehead. The efficacious star closed her eyes in contemplation, and she continuously changed her hand seals. The starfire was increasingly intense. Yuwen could sense that the liquid in the array was beginning to condense its quintessence. She did not dare lose focus at all. She continued to carefully control the temperature of the starfire. Furthermore, she constantly changed the 5 elements' positions of the child and mother-linked heart's needles, exploiting the mutual engenderment principle of the 5 elements to increase the success of her refinement one step further. These 1,000-year tears were extremely difficult to refine. In of itself, it did not have the 5 element, and this extra step added to the medicine refinement master's difficulty. Liangshan continent's medicine materials all had categories. 5 elements medicine refining theory was the basis for all medicine refinement masters. Thus, unless their talent was outstanding, generally only a few medicine refinement masters could successfully refine the 1,000-year tears. In the past, a majority of cultivators that obtained the thousand-year tears did not directly ingest unrefined thousand-year tears, nor did they randomly mix things. Although the efficacy was greatly eased, following the absorption of the thousand-year tears into the body, star energy could rapidly advance. However, as far as the star duels were concerned, that sort of nurturing that required several dozen years was somewhat slow. A long while afterwards, Yuwen opened her eyes. The girl was quite different from the feeble impression she normally gave. Her starry eyes were full of seriousness. The efficacious star appeared even more heroic and cold than Xingliang. Her hand pointed, activating spiritual aura distribution. Gentle spiritual power wound around the thousand-year tears. Finally, the starfire gradually extinguished. The child and mother-linked heart's needles were retracted. In front of Yuwen's eyes hovered the thousand-year tears appeared very sparkling and translucent, full of light. Success. Yuwen breathed a sigh of relief, and her brow loosened. She had wasted so many thousand-year tears, but this time, she did not make Big Brother disappointed. Yuwen urgently left the palace, and was prepared to inform Su Xing of these good news. She searched for a while, yet she could not find Su Xing's figure. Yuwen, are you searching for master? Yan Yizhen was just sparring with Lin Yingmei and Hu Nyangzi. She spotted Yuwen's appearance that was looking for someone, and thus asked her. An elder sister E, have you seen Big Brother? Master and CEO have gone to Blackwater City. Is something the matter? Yuwen was confused. Apparently, Black Profound Divine Jade has appeared at Blackwater City. It is material Wuxia needs to ascend to 5-star. Yan Yizhen answered. Originally, she also wanted to accompany Su Xing, however, so many people following at his side was a bit too conspicuous. Furthermore, they were only going to see the Black Profound Divine Jade. There was no need to adopt a rich boy persona. Anyways, he had Wuxia and Gongsun Huang, so Su Xing would not encounter trouble. Of course, the sole trouble probably would be a past overlord. However, it was precisely because of this that he required protection. To make him stay at home, they were looking down too much on Su Xing. Yuwen nodded. Little sister Yuwen, could it be you finished refining the thousand-year tears? Zhang Yuqi walked over. Yuwen is powerless and finished refining just now. Yuwen apologetically said. The indifferent Yan Yizhen showed rare delight. This is too good. This is just in time to rush to the treasure banquet. Young Su definitely will love Yuwen to death. Zhang Yuqi dubiously winked, making Yuwen lower her head very bashfully. Black Turtle Territory, Blackwater City. Su Xing and Wuxia walked side by side along the bustling street. The surroundings were row upon row of magnificent buildings. Every sort of cultivator could be seen entering and exiting, haggling over their prices. The Su Xing who had been occupied with the star duels had not had a chance to pass by something so bustling in a very long time. Su Xing wore a green brocade, appearing like an elegant scholar. On his shoulder sat little Huang. The little girl's phoenix clothing was absolutely eye-catching, extraordinarily gorgeous, like a phoenix spreading its wings. Others looked at Su Xing with endless envy. However, what was most eye-catching was perhaps the Wuxia that was alongside Su Xing. Wuxia's attire already changed. Other than a magnificent cloak, the clothing underneath had a classical silk shirt with a high collar along with a short skirt. Under her short skirt was a pair of snow-white jade thighs. However, Wuxia's hair that cascaded down to her, but was more beautiful than a waterfall. And it matched that nearly detached beauty, still drawing the admiring gazes of many people. They walked into a booth. Su Xing looked up and down the trinkets with great interest. The Black Turtle Territory had very famous precious stones and many novelty toys that Su Xing had never seen before. Looking around for a long time, Su Xing suddenly recalled that it was the eve of the treasure banquet. He had not even finished considering what assets to use to barter. Wu Su and Gongsun Huang evidently did not mind this at all. They still heedlessly walked about, and soon, they entered another shop. This place's amounts and types were clearly shocking. Every sort of oddly shaped was all present. Originally, Su Xing believed that Liangshan continent's ores were materials to upgrade star weapons and the like. He never imagined the Black Turtle territories would be even more abundant. This place surprisingly was not only extensive, its varieties were also complete. Other than star weapon upgrade materials, it also had magic weapon type ores. Wuxia did not feel any interest towards those things. Gongsun Huang's gaze at most stayed briefly on a few beautifully shaped ores. Little Huang, if you like something, tell me. Su Xing said to her. Gongsun Huang nodded in understanding. At this time, Wuxia looked around. Wifey, have you chosen something? Su Xing moved over to her. Wuxia shook her head. They continued to browse the store. Suddenly, Gongsun Huang tugged on Su Xing. Su Xing thought that she had spotted something, but following little Huang's gaze, he noticed that Gongsun Huang was pointing at a girl. Too, that was a tall young woman with long green hair. Her eyes were very clear, with a sort of personality that was as weak as a chrysanthemum. At this time, the girl was gazing at a stone with interest. She appeared to be somewhat fond of it. Su Xing was bewildered. He looked at Gongsun Huang's cocked head. This was the first time that the little loli showed such confusion. Lord husband, perhaps she is a star general. Wuxia lowered her voice. Su Xing nodded and walked over. This stone is very beautiful, do you like it too? Su Xing chatted her up at his leisure. The stone the girl was looking at was a thumb-sized piece of jade. The stone's texture appeared strange, with bamboo leaf markings densely packed. It was very beautiful. The girl lifted her head, following Su Xing's line of sight to that stone. She nodded, responding to Su Xing's words. This stone is known as bamboo clarity stone, also known as bamboo leaves. 3. The shopkeeper immediately introduced it. What's its use? Su Xing had never heard of this name. If star energy is imbued into the stone, this stone will become 100 bamboo leaves to kill the enemy. Of course, there is only one chance. The shopkeeper said. An unexpectedly natural talisman stone. This is actually rare. Su Xing said. The so-called talisman stone could be treated as stones with talisman functions. These talisman stones generally came from the hands of jade refinement masters. Naturally formed talisman stones were extremely rare in Liangshan. However, Su Xing felt this bamboo clear stone had no uses. Su Xing glanced at Wuxia and Gongsun Huang. He asked the girl, "Do you want to buy this bamboo clear stone?" The girl shook her head. Her eyes had a bit of regret. How much is this stone? I want it. Su Xing pondered and then asked. 15 million liang of gold. They do not come cheap. The shopkeeper said. 15 million? Su Xing wrinkled his brow, feeling this shopkeeper's truly was talking big. Although talisman stones were very rare, this stone nevertheless was unlikely to be worth such a high price. Su Xing directly threw out a high-grade talisman. If you are willing, you can take this high-grade talisman for a trade. The shopkeeper's eyes glinted when he spotted this high-grade talisman. This was far better than the bamboo clear stone. He promptly nodded in flattery. This fellow is as straightforward. Take it then. The girl's eyes anxiously looked on as the stone fell into Su Xing's hand. At this time, Su Xing nevertheless threw the stone to her. I'll give it to you. The girl was taken aback. Zhu Qing looked at the bamboo clarity stone in her hand, her bright eyes turning about. AI only 700 or 800 years passed. Everything's so expensive. An elegant man grumbled as he walked over. He was somewhat surprised to see the talisman stone in Zhu Qing's hand. How did you get this stone? Someone gifted it. Zhu Qing said. A man. The man was astonished. It was him. Zhu Qing said. The man very quickly understood the him that Zhu Qing was referring to, but his brow furrowed ever more deeply. Xingliang, can I keep it? Zhu Qing seemed very fond of the bamboo clarity stone. She gently played with it in her palm, its clear light lingering, producing the green shadows of a bamboo forest in the surroundings. Yuwen Xingliang mumbled to himself but asked, Does he know your identity? Zhu Qing shook her head. Then will you still test him? Yuwen Xingliang asked further. Zhu Qing gently nodded. Then keep it. Yuwen Xingliang smiled and said, This is your life cast stone, Zhu Qing. I have no reason to make you give it up. Thank you. Zhu Qing softly said. The man in front of her was always empathetic towards her, and he sometimes even was very lenient. Yuwen Xingliang stared at Zhu Qing. However, our time is already running short. We have to settle things when the time comes. Zhu Qing was silent for a moment, still as absent-minded as she was originally. Xingliang, do you feel we truly can achieve our wish? This question, Yuwen Xingliang was unable to answer. He could only play things down. We are merely traces of true spirit. That we can manifest now is all thanks to him. Regardless of whether this wish is real or fake, we have no choice, right? We can choose. Zhu Qing's voice was soft, as if she had come from ancient times, faintly somewhat illusory. What choice? Let him ascend Maiden Mountain, complete the meaning of our star duels. Yuwen Xingliang was taken aback. Zhu Qing, do you really think that man can end the star duels? Wrong, in fact, only by us killing him might there be a chance to actually end the star duels. Isn't this the purpose of the trial? Don't tell me Dragon in the Clouds Gongsun Zhu Qing has been confused by a stone that was gifted to her. Yuwen Xingliang was gentle. He was not angry, only forgiving. Xingliang, what you say is very true. Jiangsun Zhu Qing murmured, unknown whether she was answering Yuwen Xingliang's words about the purpose of the star duels, or if she was agreeing with that phrase about confusion. However, regardless of it all, Second Overlord Leisure Star Dragon in the Clouds always appeared extraordinarily refined, so much so that it made Yuwen Xingliang scratch his head. Hubby, why did you give it to her? As they walked on the road, Wuxia was still puzzled about Su Xing's talisman stone gift to that girl. Although the talisman stone did not count as anything, this man was but her lord husband. To unexpectedly give away a gift to a star general he had no relationship with. This made Wuxia a bit jealous. Since she's your sister, I'll just treat her as a little sister. In fact, Su Xing also could not understand why. This was the first time he had seen a star general at wit's end over a stone. Seeing her minor expectations, he could not help but gift it to her. However, back on topic, he seemed to have seen that girl somewhere before, making him feel very familiar with her. Her personality is a lot like yours, little Huang. A relatively very refined feeling. Su Xing broke into a smile. No wonder. It was perhaps because of this reason that she did not have something as mundane as money. And little Huang gently nodded. Wuxia pursed her lips. Su Xing wrapped an arm around her shoulder. Wifey, don't mind it. In a moment I'll gift you black profound divine jade. Who is minding things? Wuxia disagreed. She shot Su Xing a glance. Have you noticed that the gazes of the people around us are suspicious? Su Xing had already noticed. With Wuxia's personality, they probably had been recognized, let alone that there was a white tiger following them around. However, Su Xing did not care very much about this. They could not overturn a stormy sea. They browsed through the market square. In the end, Su Xing's part came to a Blackwater auction house for a visit. Upon entering, a giant circular screen hung in front of them. This screen's color was pink and lovely, incomparably gentle. Upon it was drawn a beautiful Apsara painting. Although the woman in the portrait merely showed her back figure, it fluttered about constantly. It had a vague red glow, appearing exceptionally enchanting. They knew at first glance this was a pretty good artifact. Small semicircular gates flanked each of its sides. In front of the screen, there was a 30 or so years old female cultivator. She had a dull green palace dress, standing there gently laughing and chatting amicably with a male cultivator. It was odd. This woman appeared very ordinary, but each and every one of her movements was full of a mature, womanly grace. Her words and laughter emitted a touching charm. That male cultivator was only galaxy early-stage cultivation, but he nevertheless was stared at by others, incessantly sneaking glances. When this woman saw Su Xing and the others enter, her eyes immediately glinted. After she gently clapped, a young woman promptly walked out from behind the screen. This male cultivator was reluctant to part, but he was guided back behind the screen. Su Xing knew at once that this female cultivator had cultivated charm arts. However, Su Xing's heart-like mirror had already been practiced to perfection. This charm art naturally was completely useless. Fellows, welcome. This little woman wonders how she can help you. This woman's voice was soft and gentle, making her sound extremely pleasant. Is this place holding an auction? Su Xing asked. To recount, other than the dragon auction from a very long time ago, he very rarely entered these kinds of auction houses. Exactly. Noticing Su Xing remained indifferent to her, the woman was secretly astonished, but after seeing Wuxia and Gong Sun Huang, she vaguely understood the situation. She stopped the charm arts and replied with dignity, "Is there black profound divine jade?" Su Xing asked her. If there was not, they were prepared to leave. "We do." The woman covered her apricot lips, her bright eyes rippling as she chuckled. "And then can we participate?" Su Xing smiled and asked. The woman laughed. "Fellow is a supercluster middle-stage cultivator. How can this little woman dare refuse? If Fellow needs to auction, then you can tell this little woman. Today this auction has seen many supercluster stage cultivators." Su Xing pondered. It was the eve of the treasure banquet, and this was perfect to barter a bit of capital. The harvest he reaped facing the 10 great sects encirclement at the Bright Moon Longevity Palace was abundant. Other than some prehistoric spirit treasures, many things were already completely useless to the current Su Xing. Changing them for capital was good. Thinking, he nodded. Clap, clap. This woman clapped, and from behind the screen ran out another young woman. She handed Su Xing a jade strip. This jade stripe is bright pearl strip. Fellow can engrave the items he wishes to auction upon it. The bright pearl strip was a kind of unique jade strip that the Crystal Dragon Palace had refined. Imbuing it with divine intent would secretly form an imprint. It was something specially used for auctions. On one hand, it could guarantee one would not be extorted by the other party. On the other hand, it could preserve fairness between both parties. This once was an object the treasure banquet had put much splendor in. Afterwards, it spread over the entire Liangshan continent's auctions. Su Xing's hand pointed. The jade strip hovered gently in front of him. Then he imbued his divine intent, engraving the items he wanted to sell, and the prices he mentally valued onto it. Because what the auction chose were things that would give the auction house a portion of the profits in the end, Su Xing was not afraid they would depress the prices. The bright pearl strip was returned to the female cultivator. Little woman is named Fengying. Tu Fengying introduced herself. Su Xing. These are my 2 wives. Su Xing also introduced himself. Wuxia and Gong Sun Huang merely glanced at her. When he introduced Wuxia as his wife, the female cultivator could maintain her composure, but upon hearing that this obviously 8 or 9-year-old little girl was also unexpectedly a wife, Fengying stared dumbstruck. Could she be a child bride? Truly odd. But seeing Gong Sun Huang's expensive phoenix perch red cloud clothes, she knew from a glance this was an extraordinary treasure. Fengying did not dare slight her. When she took the jade strip to inspect its information, her complexion slightly changed. The things upon it were varied and numerous. Many of the items were of the type strong enough to make supercluster cultivators fight over them in a frenzy. This man honestly had assets. How could Fengying know that the things that Su Xing brought out were no more than the most inferior portion? There was still some that he was waiting until he went to the treasure banquet to use. After he finished preparing these, Su Xing entered the auction house. The instant he crossed the door, Su Xing sensed a slight alteration in spiritual power. He seemed to have entered into a sort of forbid dance, and his expression could not help but shift. But he then recovered his calm. Everyone's eyes were dazzled. There was a whole other world behind the screen. A 2-zhang-wide corridor separated the grounds behind into 2 large halls. The left side area was spacious and bright. Other than several tall black pillars, there was no cover at all. Furthermore, the inside was extremely bustling. At the end of the procession was a small room. The room had a white light shimmering above the door, whereas the right side area was thoroughly covered within a blue light. It was basically impossible to see the situation inside. This place is called the Virtuous Diagram Pavilion. It is specialized in the things cultivators collect from the Black Turtle Territory seas. You can exchange for gold, medicines, or other things. Or if you believe something is expensive, you can directly participate in the auction after appraisal. This city also has several other places engaged in a similar practice. They open their doors under different spheres of influence. However, our Virtuous Diagram Pavilion is the largest. The female cultivator proudly introduced. It was a pity that she was not here, otherwise he probably could understand things more by relying on her. Su Xing nodded in silence, not caring about this. He only wanted to quickly obtain black profound divine jade. As for the scale, in Su Xing's perspective, participating in the treasure banquet, the Crystal Dragon Palace's legendary 10,000 Li Crystal Palace was sufficient to make the Virtuous Diagram Pavilion not worth a mention. Right, what power do you fall under? Su Xing asked. He knew that with this scale, the power backing them definitely was not small. The Devil Star Palace? This is the Nine Dragons Sea. The Devil Star Palace is unable to meddle, but this is Strange Abyss Island. The Virtuous Diagram Pavilion belongs to the Nine Dragon Palace. Feng Ying calmly said. Oh, that is good indeed. Su Xing nodded. Arriving at the auction, it was counterintuitively adorned simply and elegantly. Other than a few wood chairs, at the end of the hall was a several zhang-long platform. Behind the platform was a beautiful woman. Her hand held a stone of flickering blue light. Her mouth was like a torrent as she spoke something. Across from him, several dozen cultivators of every rank sat or stood, from the lowest stardust stage to supercluster stage. Su Xing silently observed the auction items on the platform from the side. Feng Ying bade her farewell, and came behind the platform. She changed from her previous calm and urgently spoke. Senior Sister Ping, what is the matter? A female cultivator was bewildered. Quickly, report to the Queen Wu Song and the Purple Thunder Monster have come. Feng Ying solemnly said. In truth, Su Xing did not know at all that ever since he had snatched Shiyu away from the Illusion Reality sect, and scared off Holy Lord of Draconic Demon, the Purple Thunder Monster's heroic tales had spread throughout the Black Turtle territory. The Devil Star Palace, Nine Dragons Palace and the other great powers had already issued an alert against him. Every major auction and market square had his Wu Songs and others' portraits. However, with Su Xing's current strength, this alert more or less was somewhat cautionary in meaning. Things outside the auction were in the middle of intensifying. Feng Ying anxiously waited. Not long after, the shifting star-moving moon array flashed. A woman walked out from the middle. This woman wore a dark blue flowery gown wrapped in black silk, revealing her gracefully contoured neck and visible collarbone. Her skirt pleats were like snowy moonlight flowing gently towards the ground. It dragged more than 3 chi, making her gait all the more graceful and beautiful. Her abundant black hair was bound using a headband, and a butterfly hairpin was stuck into it. A lock of black hair lay across her chest, and her makeup only added to her beauty. If one was to look only at her figure, then she definitely was extremely charming, making them very easily think the woman was a beauty that could lead to the downfall of a country, but upon seeing face, she made people startled. The woman was not at all so ugly, rather, the woman wore a sinister, fanged mask that covered half her face. Its shape was unbearably ugly. At first glance, it was a grotesque beast, making one feel nauseous. Her exposed small cherry lips were adorned with black lipstick, which added even further to her sinister appearance. Feng Ying did not dare slight her. She respectfully stepped forward. Imperial Empress Yunshang. 2. After the star duels began, the Nine Dragons Palace had 2 Imperial Empresses. The one in the light was Nine Tattooed Dragons Xingliang, and the one in the shadows was that second Imperial Empress before her named Yunshang who made people love and fear her. Yunshang normally was in charge of the 9 city-states outside Nine Dragons City. Her position was second only to Xingliang. What has happened? There is no need to startle the queen. Yunshang indifferently spoke. Feng Ying summarized things. Wu Song, the Purple Thunder Monster? A slight ripple appeared in Yunshang's tone. She had long already heard the rumors about the Purple Thunder Monster. This man who defeated Great Saint Starkiller, who slayed Guanyin, and even left Xingliang at a loss of what to do had most recently become prominent in the Black Turtle territory. Yunshang stood guard over 9 cities, yet she was curious about him. Particularly this man who unexpectedly could seduce 2,000-year star generals who had never once signed a contract in nearly a millennium. Majestic Star Linchong and Harm Star Wusong. This truly was extremely outrageous. I have already dispatched people to retain the black profound divine jade as last to be auctioned. They ought to still be drinking tea. Feng said. Yunxiang nodded, the meaning being that she expressed approval. Feng saw that she did not speak, and then continued. I feel that they are definitely using the Black Profound Divine Jade to upgrade a star weapon. Imperial Empress Yunxiang, shall we still sell it to them? We need not play tricks in business affairs. Let him buy everything if he has the money. However, how many Black Profound Divine Jade do we have in this auction? Yunxiang asked. 25 pieces. Feng honestly replied. 25 pieces. She should still be lacking in number to upgrade her star weapon, however, we should still limit him to 15 pieces. Yunxiang calmly said. As you command. Also completely turn over all auction items from these 9 great cities to me. I hear the Purple Thunder Monster has many star generals. Perhaps there are some unfavorable to the queen among them. Yunxiang continued to say. Yes. Before Yunxiang's commands were finished. Finally, immediately inform Devil Star Palace and the other great sects. Just tell them that the Purple Thunder Monster has appeared alone. Let them go kill each other in a life and death battle. I want to see just what virtue and capabilities he has, to be able to have contracted with so many of my sisters. Subordinate immediately carries out your orders. Despite Yunxiang's malevolent personality, her thoughts nevertheless were very meticulous. Very quickly, she had sorted things out. After Feng left, Yunxiang passed through a curtain to look at the auctions arena. Her black eyes, for a time, were abyssal and indecipherable, her mood very unclear. Su Xing watched the auction taking place atop the platform. All of the items had been very ordinary. Perhaps to other cultivators, even supercluster cultivators, they were exceptional items, but to the Su Xing and the Star Duels, these magic weapons were not as outstanding as those that Tang Lianxin forged. Finally, the Black Profound Divine Jade at last was unveiled. The Black Profound Divine Jade was a strange treasure. In the Black Turtle territory, it was an excellent item to be used with practicing cultivation methods or refining tools, and Black Profound Divine Jade came from the endless depths. It was very difficult to find, and its appearance would attract the interest of all cultivators. What made Su Xing disappointed was that there were only 15 pieces of Black Profound Divine Jade. This was too few. Wuxia currently had 13 pieces, and her upgrade to 5-star required 48 pieces, meaning that these mere 28 pieces was still deficient by a large portion. However, this was far better than nothing. 15 pieces of Black Profound Divine Jade. Each piece is being auctioned at a price of 30 million apiece. A female cultivator announced in a loud voice. 30 million each. This price made those cultivators somewhat timid. To a scattered cultivator, this price honestly was somewhat not too matching with common sense, far out of the ordinary. Su Xing was not worried. He slowly waited. 35 million liang. A tottering fat person said. 40 million. 55 million. The sounds of bidding were considerably weaker than before. Perhaps some had the support of a sect, but very few scattered cultivators could come up with the capital for a Black Profound Divine Jade priced at 40, 50 million, 70 million. Just as the 55 million was already stopping, just when that cultivator thought that he could obtain it, a voice that rang like a morning bell resounded through the hall. Everyone turned their gazes and saw a man make his bid. Beside him were 2 gorgeous girls hugging him from the left and right. 70 million? This is too extravagant. The Black Profound Jade cannot be worth 70 million, can it? Everyone discussed spiritedly. The 70 million appeared like an astronomical figure, however, it did not count as much when exchanged with talismans, pills, or magic weapons. The bright pearl strip that Su Xing gave to Feng contained enough to spare even if he was to barter for every piece of Black Profound Divine Jade at more than 100 million apiece. The feeling of someone sending their money to his doorstep felt so good. 3 Su Xing sighed. 70 million. Is there anyone else who will bid an even higher price? This is Black Profound Divine Jade, a strange stone of the endless depths. No one answered. Su Xing had already seen the bottom line price that each of them could afford. Therefore, the moment he spoke was enough to astonish everyone. It seems this Black Profound Divine Jade will be given to this fellow. The female cultivator smiled and said, 100 million. Just as she was about to close, suddenly at this moment, there was an abrupt change. A voice cold to the bone suddenly resounded. Everyone shuddered in alarm, as if they felt goosebumps upon hearing this voice. Su Xing and Wuxia were both taken aback. They turned their heads in astonishment. A woman draped in black silk and wearing dark blue splendid clothing walked in from the main doors. Each step she took seemed to imitate an Azura, as if they could see monsters cheering from behind the woman. She made everyone stifled, especially when the woman was wearing an extremely ugly monster mask that covered her face, making her seem even more malicious. This made people feel she was cultivating some devil cultivation method at first glance, and needed the black profound divine jade. 100 million? This one's insane, to unexpectedly offer 100 million. Heavens! Everyone discussed in succession. Yunxiang glanced at Su Xing. There was no emotion to be seen in her gaze. Su Xing did not expect Qing Yaojin to show up suddenly along the way. His first impression was that she was deliberately bidding the price higher. This was an auction's trick, Su Xing knew, but the woman in front of him seemed a bit unfathomable. 200 million. Su Xing said immediately. Everyone drew in a deep breath. Glancing at Su Xing's crafty eyes, no one expected that Su Xing would immediately double the bid. Could it be that he was deliberately inflating the price? Even Wuxia felt that Su Xing's bid was honestly overwhelming. Su Xing was expressionless. He calmly talked and joked with little Huang. Su Xing deliberately did so to fight a psychological battle, to make his opponent believe that he was raising the price. Under normal circumstances, if he was not so insistent, even a person deliberately increasing the price could not possibly dare make another bid. Yunxiang's extremely cold expression showed slight astonishment from Su Xing's action. If it was not for knowing Su Xing's bottom line towards the black profound divine jade, was that he had to obtain it, she perhaps would honestly have retreated. Yunxiang's pupils shrunk. She ruthlessly spat out. 300 million. Boom. Everyone was shaken. These cultivators had never seen this level of bidding in an auction. Each and every single one of them stared dumbstruck at the two of them. The black profound divine jade also can be given to a star general to upgrade her star weapon. That elder sister over there is somewhat familiar. Yunxiang pensively said. It seems this item must be obtained at all costs. These words seemed enlightening, waking everyone up. Only then did they return to their senses. If this was used for a star general's star weapon upgrade, 200 or 300 million was not bargaining. She is, someone whispered, a greedy light flashing across their eyes. Wuxia's eyes narrowed, concealing her cold blade. It seems you also want to use it to upgrade your star weapon? Su Xing smiled and said, since the lady has bid like this, it seems I really must obtain it without fail. Yunxiang was expressionless, as if answering this was indeed the case. As expected, she had come to increase the price? To encounter a star general at this kind of auction was perhaps most detestable. Regarding materials required to be obtained, to give up on them was not too possible. However, to use 400 or 500 to buy one black profound divine jade, 15 pieces would then be close to 1 billion. As far as the Su Xing who was rich and overbearing was concerned, this still hurt very much. Su Xing sunk into contemplation. Some people showed sneers. They were secretly pleased that Su Xing was agonizing in front of his wives' faces. 300 million apiece. Is there any other fellow that wishes to bid? The female cultivator's voice trembled. However, this was not because of the high price or because of Yunxiang. She knew the Nine Dragons Palace's imperial empress. To slap down their own was a gain that did not make up for the losses. Lord husband, let us leave. Since little sister is fond of it, leave it to her. Wuxia calmly said. To make Su Xing waste 1 billion to buy the black profound divine jade, Wuxia did not like this. Fenging. Su Xing suddenly said. Fellow, what is the matter? Fenging hurried over. I want to tell you something. Please speak. Exchange the things in the bright pearl strip for these 15 black profound divine jade. If you are willing, then your servant shall make the trade. Of course, if you feel the price is too low, then these 15 pieces of black profound jade can be yielded to this lady. Su Xing remained calm amidst the chaos, slightly smiling. Feng was stunned. She did not expect Su Xing to be so generous. The things in the bright pearl strip, no matter how it was put, neared $1 billion in value. Although this did not compare to the price of 300 million apiece, it was an absolute profit. Feng did not dare make the decision, and she subconsciously glanced at Yunshang. Can you give his bright pearl strip items for me to look at? Yunshang said. Feng deferentially handed it to her. Yunshang took the jade strip, scanned it with her divine intent, and showed no expression as she threw it back. Everyone saw her indifference and thought that she was disdaining him. They were secretly pleased. How could they have anticipated Yunshang's reply? Truly, you hate to wrong elder sister. I shall acknowledge the beauty of that honesty. Yunshang indifferently said. Su Xing cursed under his breath. He knew he had been made a fool of by this woman. Judging from the deference just now when Feng passed the jade strip, perhaps Feng knew this woman, and her status possibly was not low. However, just as Yunshang said, Su Xing needed to obtain the black profound divine jade. He obviously knew he was being outbid and still got played. Fortunately, Su Xing did not favor any of the items on the bright pearl strip, so the exchange was not so painful. He actually glanced several more times at that woman. He could never forget that ugly mask even if he wanted to. Your servant is Su Xing. Lady truly has played a good trick this time, and made your servant pay the price. Your servant wonders how to address you? If we meet in the future, your servant can give his regards. Su Xing asked with an insincere smile. Yunshang. The woman curled her lips, as if she was smiling. Chills ran down the back of Feng, who watched from the side. The Imperial Empress had never smiled before. This purple thunder monster honestly was as tricky as the rumors told, to unexpectedly be able to make Imperial Empress Yunshang show an expression of interest. Yunshang is a wisp of a dream, a flower tribute yet carefree. 5 A good name. Su Xing nodded. After the black profound divine jade, Su Xing thought that things were more or less finished. However, the climax had only just begun then. To make these cultivators stay behind to the end, the black profound divine jade naturally was not enough to become the finale of the auction. Finally the end. Since all fellows have gone through a complete exchange, then now we shall begin the final treasure of this auction session. It is also this trade fair's most precious treasure. Feng took the stage. Calmly finishing these words, she suddenly clapped her hands twice. Then, divine light flashed at the entrance to the hall. 2 maids walked in. The 2 maids' dresses fluttered, wafting their fragrance, pervading the area. All of the cultivators present shifted because the 2 maids' hands held a jade tray. This jade tray was covered with a red cloth. With just a look, this clearly was an extraordinary item. Since everyone has lasted to this stage, naturally, you will know what is being auctioned this time. Your humble servant shall not waste any more words, and will allow everyone to first witness the true face of this treasure. Feng gently smiled. Her flattering style circulated and immediately shook. The red cloth was lifted, and crimson light suddenly rocketed into the sky. Then, a fist-sized ball of glaring yellow light slowly rose out of the box, but the moment it left the box, this yellow light seemed to swell and shrink indeterminately like Buddhist light. Furthermore, it let out a muffled hum. Seeing this scene, Feng imposingly formed a hand seal. Several hand seals were struck together in succession, and then she pointed at the yellow light. She let out a low shout. The light ball flickered several times. After it suddenly whirled, the spiritual light abruptly stopped. Its original form appeared. It was a square-shaped thing. This item was smooth, glossy as jade, but the surface suddenly dimmed and then glowed. It faintly manifested layer upon layer of gold and silver talisman script. The strange thing was that every time this spirit light flashed, these talisman script arrays would be entirely different. Furthermore, under closer inspection, it made people feel extremely marvelous. Besides this, although the spirit chi emitted from the jade tray was gentle and steady, the spirit chi inside was extremely vast. Even though the object did not look powerful at all, the moment it appeared, it made all the cultivators wild. Su Xing felt that this object was somewhat familiar. He suddenly recalled, was this not the banquet invitation that Long Nu gave him back then for the treasure banquet? Surely, everyone must know of the treasure banquet that is on the eve of commencing. This event is one of Liangshan's absolutes. Any cultivator able to participate in the banquet needs only to enter to be able to have endless benefits, but the conditions to enter the banquet are extremely demanding. The Nine Dragons Palace has exhausted much effort in order to obtain this jade plate. It can allow everyone that participates in the treasure banquet to witness Liangshan continent's most wondrous treasures. As Fenging leisurely spoke, she also controlled the jade pendant that was in front of her. The suddenly enlarging and shrinking spirit light was fully charged. It made all the cultivators present in the hall unable to help but be restless. Besides, even if they did not have this explanation, just mentioning the words "participate in the treasure banquet" was enough to stir everyone. To be able to participate in the treasure banquet was also a symbol of status. Let alone that this jade pendant was high class, they could even participate in an even higher class auction. Bids very quickly rang out. Su Xing recalled that she just happened to be lacking such a jade pendant. This was perfect to help her obtain one. Therefore, he also called out bids. Su Xing glanced at Yunshang. Discovering the woman had already disappeared at some point without a trace. He was not surprised at all. Su Xing in the end obtained this jade pendant, making those cultivators red-eyed incessantly. They perhaps even had thoughts of stealing it. Su Xing already experienced the envy of the Xikong sisters. He noticed that Wuxia had left at some unknown time, and he asked little Huang. She had something and asks your highness to wait. Gongsun Huang said. Something? Su Xing was taken aback. He immediately knew what Wuxia had gone to do. Blackwater City, an isolated alley. Yunshang was currently strolling about. She paced for a moment, stopped and suddenly turned around. Something appeared in her hand, and a sharp arrow was launched. A beautiful figure flashed out, crushing the arrow with a clang. Black profound divine jade, you do not need it at all. Wuxia sneered. To extort a lord husband, little sister is very bold. As the rumors say, you address each other as husband and wife? Just what bewitchment has that man cast upon you, Wu Song? Yunshang was cold. Just what is your identity? Wuxia asked. Yunshang's hand covered her mask, yet her other hand manifested a great sword. Use your skill to find out. Exactly what your servant wants. Wuxia just happened to be somewhat infuriated that Yunshang would extort her lord husband. She launched an attack at once without saying another word. Before she finished speaking, a long and narrow cold light that was like a beautiful lightning flash flit by. Wuxia already launched her offensive. Noble frost demonic lotus blossomed with ice, snow and black lotuses. Yunshang's footsteps retreated. Her great sword also unsheathed at the same time, shooting towards Wuxia as swift as lightning, but this was no more than a feint. Wuxia easily blocked the great sword. Immediately, she used the tip of her sword to knock it aside, but the slightest air-splitting noise soundlessly rang. Several rays of black shadows attacked from Yunshang's left hand as swift as thunder, attacking Wuxia from a direction completely different from before. They really were not a pure attack. Those shadows seemed to be able to attack according to their master's will. Even if Wuxia used her superb footwork speed to block, the shadows that were knocked aside could still instantly counterattack like snakes twisting their heads. She was completely without any time to breathe. Furthermore, what was even more frightening was that the shadows would shoot out noiselessly from any random angle, as if they were terrifying assassins. Bang bang bang. A shrieking sound and metallic clanging continuously clashed. Yunshang's first attack displayed the strength only a gloomy strong person could have. The attack was not only incomparably fast, it also was impeccable in terms of defense. Wuxia cut down the shadows, which unexpectedly were short arrows. Arrows, Wuxia evidently expect that she was battling against a sister that used arrows. A sinister sneer came over. The paths of arrow and sword unexpectedly formed a terrifying net of lightning in a range of 3 zhang, but this nevertheless was unable to obstruct Wuxia's footwork. Harm Star Pilgrim was like a falcon shuttling back and forth at lightning speed. Even if she was occasionally forced into an attack's dead end, her accurate and speedy judgment in evasion was enough to help her. In the mere blink of an eye, that black shadow arrived in front of Yunshang. Noble Frost Demonic Lotus once again was stopped by noiseless arrows fired in succession. Wuxia punched. A presence wrapped in ice-cold suddenly slashed down, carrying a black light before the target's eyes, incomparably chilling, like the oppressive sound of thunder arriving. Yunshang's expression was serious. Her footsteps were like a monster's, light as wind, leaning sideways through this attack, but the double-ended Noble Frost Demonic Lotus nevertheless touched the ground and suddenly changed directions. By changing her direct charge into a horizontal sweep, this time, the attack's speed and power were already magnified. But Yunshang already was prepared. The arrows gathered into one and combined with her own sword, successfully sealed the path Wuxia's sweep attacked. The tricky light left Wuxia with no choice but to withdraw. This was something her defenses could block. Yunshang seized her chance. Just like a shadowy vulture, she struck at this instant. Even if she had made mental preparations and used her weapon as a buffer, the chilling attack of the little sister in front of her could not be underestimated. Under the powerful charge, Wuxia's body was suddenly tossed several meters, but the instant she landed, the woman already recovered without a problem. A soft grunt. Countless whirling arrows like a viper's fangs stirred up the air turbidity. Practically in that instant Wuxia saw them. The whirling arrows seemed to pierce her body. Yellow rank technique. Rapid succession poison edge. 6. As long as I do not hurt elder sister, my attack can undergo countless changes. Yunshang's words carried an unclear arrogance or calm tone. Even if you are Wusong, underestimating me will still lead to a very wretched death. Noble Frost Demonic Lotus spun, and her eyes became darker than the abyss at the same time. An earnest expression appeared on her face. The pressure that the little sister in front of her gave Wuxia unexpectedly was not bad. Wuxia gradually was somewhat boiling over. Are you serious now? I also want to experience how powerful this generation's Wusong is. Yunshang ruthlessly said. Wuxia smiled and shouted. Noble Frost Demonic Lotus danced with a large black sword chi that sprinkled Yunshang, as if it was an unstoppable fain wind, enveloping her prey tightly within the saber light and shadow. Yellow rank sword technique. Yunshang broke off. At the same time, her fingers snapped. Countless shadows shot out from her fingers, transforming seemingly into vipers that pounced towards Wuxia. But regardless of how crafty Yunshang's attack angle was, how frequently she varied her speed, her attack seemed unable to hurt Wuxia in the slightest. That double-ended sword of pitch black and snow-white light danced under Wuxia's control, like an airtight rampart. She brushed aside each randomly appearing attack Yunshang wielded. Under a continuous volley of arrows, Yunshang finally noticed that she was still somewhat unable to shake the top-notch martial general Wuxia in a frontal confrontation. The girl's eyes changed expression for the first time. But the battle had only just begun. Wuxia suddenly clenched double swords. A terrifying aggression flowed from her sword tip, full of a bloodlight. Yunshang sensed danger. Without hesitation, she flung the great sword at Wuxia. Then, her wrist flipped and showed a black, monstrously formed crossbow. That ugly mask's appearance was ferocious. Dark technique. Blood-splashing Mandarin duck. Wuxia vanished. The great sword split apart. Twin sabers directly flashed for Yunshang's neck. Yunshang at this time did not hold back her attack. An arrow fired, forming numerous densely packed phantoms. Wuxia's sword slashed, but the second and third arrow followed immediately after. She fired continuously without pause, firmly suppressing Wuxia's blood-splashing Mandarin duck. The harm star had no choice but to terminate her attack. She took a step back. Wuxia's eyes narrowed, and the corner of her lips curled. Prominence star Ugly Prince Consort Xianzan. 7. I have been looking forward to meeting you. Although Prominent star Ugly Prince Consort Xianzan was not that sort of first-rate martial general, without even the fame of the earthly star's 4 heavenly kings, her continuous stream of arrows was executed to perfection. Among the star generals, this was her unique skill. Even hero star Little Li Guang Huarong's arrow arts were inferior. To bump into the Ugly Prince Consort, regardless of whether one was a top-notch martial general like Lu Junyi or the weakest Bai Sheng, There was unanimous opinion about the succession of arrows. Underestimating the enemy would only bring certain death. Xian Yunshang's hands gripped a pitch-black short bow. She held 3 arrows that were like shadows of billowing black qi. 5 stars flowed around on it. This was Ugly Prince Consort's famous destined star weapon, Demon Bow, and Monster Arrow. 2. Wu Song, it is I who have waited long to meet you. Xian Yunshang's voice was gloomy, without any feeling. Can you tell me why you would sign a contract with a man? Does your servant need a reason to do anything? Wu Xiao twirled her sword, disdaining to reply. Immediately she sneered. Your servant is actually curious, Ugly Prince Consort Xianzan. You surprisingly will not sign a contract? You have committed a blunder. The 9th generation star duels can allow us sisters to meet again, to ascend Maiden Mountain together. Those contractors merely are burdens to us. Xian Yunshang's pace slowly shifted. The two circled one another, their gaits absent-minded, but each step concealed great murderous intent. What did you say? Wu Xiao's brows furrowed. If I was to say you can scale Maiden Mountain without the need for any Star Master, Wu Song, would you be willing to join us? Xian Yunshang continued. Is there such a possibility? Wu Xiao sneered at her. Do you accept? Xian Huayansheng said. So long as you agree to join us, I will tell you the greatest secret of these star duels. Wu Xiao raised her eyebrows unimpressed. This generation's uprising? You know. Xian Yunshang showed slight surprise. Wu Xiao naturally knew about the matter of the uprising. Although this was indeed somewhat strange, and she was also indeed curious as to what the uprising actually was, to make her part of the uprising was something she could not do. What does that have to do with your servant? Her cool and elegant figure vanished from where she was. That is a pity. Xian Yunshang coldly spat out 4 words. Her hand movements were extremely quick, and the 3 monster arrows promptly fired. The arrowheads spun out indistinct shadows, their constantly changing trajectories making them untrackable, completely as untraceable as its bow. Wu Xiao evaded 2 arrows consecutively, and the last arrow was also deflected by Noble Frost Demonic Lotus. Xian Yunshang somersaulted into midair. Whooshing shadows once again shot out. Not good. Xian Yunshang suddenly noticed that Wu Xiao had vanished without a trace. Where are you looking? Wu Xiao appeared behind her, slashing. Clang. Her protective armor cracked. Xian Yunshang raised her hand. An steel saber appeared that swept out. As nimble as a dragonfly skimming the water's surface. Wu Xiao gently stepped on the steel saber, and her sword's power fell. Sword chi exploded on Xian Yunshang's body. The burst let Ugly Prince Consort incessantly suffer. If Ugly Prince Consort Xian Yunshang had a Star Master, she could at this time make the Star Master use flying swords to obstruct and create an opportunity for her demon archery, but for her alone to face Wu Xiao was not so easy. Xian Yunshang was forced to a sorry figure. She used her dark technique without any hesitation. East wind breaks. 3. The monster arrows let out ghastly shrieks, and a ring appeared in the air. Black light directly shot towards Wu Xiao's chest. At this moment, regardless of whatever dodge Wu Xiao used, she would be struck without fail. Wu Xiao clenched the sword before her chest. Clang clang. The arrow slammed into the sword, shaking it. A wave burst out from within the arrow. The ring previously in the air suddenly enlarged, moving towards Wu Xiao to trap her. An enormous thud. The 5-star monster arrow finally forced away Noble Frost Demonic Lotus. Wu Xiao's expression changed. The airflow exploded, rolling a tidal wave like qi boiled. Did it hit? Xian Yunshang stared, still somewhat not daring to believe. But following the air wave dissipating, her flowing green hair heavily settled, and Xian Yunshang's heart sank. Wu Xiao slowly turned her head back. Her hair was aflutter, and in her mouth, she had caught the monster arrow that had been fired at her. Incredible. As expected of a martial general that is top-notch in battle. To be able to surprisingly block my eastern wine breaks under that situation. Xian Yunshang let out an ice-cold, gloomy sigh. Wu Xiao spat out the arrow, her expression ice-cold. Xian Yunshang knew that she could not hold an advantage fighting any further. At this moment, she sensed that the purple thunder monster was approaching this place, and a thought flashed past her mind. I will not keep you company any longer. Xingliang suddenly called. A pitch-black, cloud-treading, fanged crimson-eyed, grotesque and sinister monster horse appeared from out of thin air. This horse was known as Ugly, Xingliang's star beast. It was in accordance with her title as the Ugly Prince Consort. Xingliang flipped onto the horse. Ugly whinnied and spat a dark, black fog at Wuxia. This black fog was not able to harm her in the slightest, but it nevertheless could blind her eyes. Xingliang glanced toward Suxing. She spurred her horse to charge at him. As she rode, she drew her bow, killing intent in her eyes. Since she could not kill Wu Song, then killing this purple thunder monster right now was also an absolutely good opportunity. However, before Xingliang could fire her arrow, Gong Sunhuang already noticed her. The little girl's pine-brand ancient sword pointed and used wind rolls the clouds. A gale blew, gusting like blades. Little white. She heard Wuxia yell. A white shadow tore apart the black smoke and fiercely pounced. Xingliang could only turn her head back and fire an arrow at it. She continued to spur Ugly into stepping on black clouds upwards. Black fog pervaded the sky and earth. Suxing summoned his flying swords in defense. Such a miserable black fog made it difficult to chase. By the time Gong Sunhuang used her star magic to blow away the black fog, Prominence star Ugly Prince Consort Xingliang had already disappeared. That just now was? Suxing asked. Prominence star Ugly Prince Consort Xianzan. Wuxia answered. Ugly Prince Consort, never expected to run into her. Suxing knew that in spite of Xianzan's ranking as 40th, that rapid-fire archery received no small measure of respect. Wifey, are you unhurt? Suxing looked her over. Wuxia glared at Suxing, to make him stop randomly feeling her up. No issue, but it is a pity your servant could not take revenge for Lord Husband. This doesn't count as revenge at all. Suxing smiled. Don't take it to heart, it's fine if you're all right. Your Highness. Gong Sunhuang suddenly looked in another direction. They stopped their conversation. With a glance, countless cultivators were currently flying in from every direction. Prominence star Ugly Prince Consort returned to the Virtuous diagram pavilion. She just happened to see large numbers of cultivators moving in the direction of Suxing. Xingliang did not have any faith in these cultivators against the purple thunder monster, but to make him surrounded by enemies on all sides in the Black Turtle territory was not a bad thing. Second Imperial Empress, according to your instructions, the surrounding sex cultivators have already gone to intercept the purple thunder monster. As they wish. We will not interfere. Xingliang was indifferent. As you order. Ugly whinnied several times, puffing out black smoke. Xingliang looked at her star beast. Do you want a name too? Ugly bawled. Xingliang wrinkled her brow. She suddenly recalled the purple thunder monster's compliment. Yunshang is a wisp of a dream, a flower tribute yet carefree. She wondered where he composed this, but it was interesting. Then from now on, you are called Flower Tribute. Xingliang calmly said. She turned her head back to issue foaming orders. Go inform the queen. Wu Song has already been captivated by that man and has no sisterly sentiments. Pausing, Xingliang shook her head. Forget it. I will go myself. It has been very long since I chatted with her. Purple Thunder Monster. All of the cultivators surrounded him from up in the sky down onto the ground without leaving any gaps. Everyone was angered. Among these cultivators were several supercluster ancestors, but Suxing did not place them in his eyes. His 36 flying swords revolved about. Green light, golden rays and white rainbows reflected each other, showing an ancient and formidable aggression. Evil suppressing gem bamboo. The 10,000-year evil suppressing gem bamboo. Everyone cried out in shock. One section of 10,000-year evil suppressing gem bamboo was enough to profit them endlessly, let alone that this was an extravagant set of 12 flying swords. I have no interest in willfully slaughtering innocents, but if you wish to die, then I will not be polite. Suxing coldly said. Although 100 cultivators was a lot, some greedy characters thought that with numbers, they could rely on others to take action yet still enjoy a share of the harvest. Su Xing saw through this kind of greedy mentality at a glance. Su Xing's palm ignited an instant frost flame. The surrounding air immediately turned cold. Everyone looked at each other in bewilderment. Their thinking was the same as Su Xing's. After they heard the news about the Purple Thunder Monster, they rushed over in a mob. They knew that the Purple Thunder Monster was classified by the Devil Palace as its #1 enemy in the Black Turtle Territory, the arch-nemesis of the Black Turtle Territory. As a result, when the call for action came down, Blackwater City's cultivators completely assembled together. However, after their fury passed, they found an embarrassing fact. Though their numbers were great, the Purple Thunder Monster's cultivation was supercluster middle stage. It would not be so easy to face him, let alone that the Purple Thunder Monster's side also had the absolutely terrifying top-notch Marshal General Wusong at his side. No one dared to make the first move. Thereupon, several thousand flying swords soared about in the sky, their imposing manner grand, as if they were a sword array come to shake the heavens and earth. Yet it was without any intense murderous intent. "Wifey, let's go." Su Xing smirked. The thousands of flying swords fluttered. All of the cultivators were indefinitely uncertain. Among them a supercluster late-stage great cultivator furiously said, "Purple Thunder Monster, do not think you can leave." 100 flying swords became a sword array that activated. Su Xing pointed. Heaven tearing broke his sword array. And when the other cultivators saw this, they immediately were agitated. They wanted to use their flying swords when at this moment, the surrounding airflow was suddenly disturbed. A gale howled. A white cloud like a dragon, a northern wind like a blade. The several thousand flying swords wobbled in the gale. Let alone forming a sword array, even divine intent control had become difficult. Everyone's expressions changed. What is happening? This is star magic. Ah! The cultivators cried out involuntarily. The wind became increasingly berserk, and without any warning, the blue light suddenly sprinkled down onto the world. The world turned blue, and the entire Blackwater City seemingly vanished. The sea in Su Xing's eyes became a blue and green plain rustling. A voice that broke out of the ground. A stalk of jadeite bamboo shot non-stop out of the ground towards the sky. In the blink of an eye, several thousand jadeite bamboo stalks had sprouted from the ground. Those cultivators' faces paled, and they wailed, their hearts having been run through by the bamboo. Blood rained down, becoming raindrops to the jadeite. 5. The scene was extremely bizarre. In a mere instant, 100 cultivators had been completely destroyed. When the supercluster late-stage ancestor saw this array, his expression was shocked, and he screamed, "Impossible! This is Ksetra of Heaven, Borderless Sword Array." 6. The ancestor immediately used full power to avoid having his heart pierced. He fled towards the horizon, but this forest was endless. That ancestor was then also killed by the bamboo forest. Su Xing and Wuxia were both astonished. They subconsciously looked to Gongsun Huang, believing this was Gongsun Huang's star magic. The little girl shook her head and pointed above them. Above the sea of bamboo appeared a man and woman. Zhuqing. Su Xing was taken aback. He was astonished to recognize that the green-haired woman was exactly the girl previously pining for the bamboo clarity stone. Compared to just then, the current Zhuqing carried a sort of exceptional majesty. Her forehead had a star crest, and there was also a green dragon beside her appearing from time to time in the blue light. The expanse of Blackwater City Island seemed to disappear under her imposing aura. The man beside Zhuqing had a face as elegant as jade. He was attractive, and his expression appeared to carry a bit of indifference. That Ksetra of Heaven, boundless sword array was his work. Each stalk in the sea of endless bamboo forest displayed a flying sword's true spirit. They continuously spun, emitting a sharp aura. Su Xing saw that his cultivation had surprisingly reached supervoid middle stage. Don't tell me. Su Xing flipped out the birth treasure outline without any hesitation. As he thought, the birth treasure outline showed a reaction. The pages fluttered, and golden characters manifested. Star position, Leisure Star name, Gongsun Sheng nickname, Dragon in the Clouds true name, Gongsun Zhuqing rank, 4th star weapon, Pine Brand Ancient Sword 4 star, Star Beast, Azure Cloud Dragon Realm. True Phoenix 2nd Stage Innate Skill. Wandering the Clear Skies 5 Elements. Wood Yellow Rank Special Technique. Cloud Traveling Azure Dragon Turn Dark Rank Special Technique. Half Destroyed Landscape Earth Rank Special Technique. Sun Moon and Stars 2 Heaven Rank Special Technique. Candle Dragon Extinguishing. 3 Current Status. Trace of True Spirit Cannot Be Conquered. Detailed Materials. Heaven Rank Technique. Su Xing's heart shuddered. Compared to the identity of Zhu Qing as second Overlord Dragon in the clouds Gongsun Sheng, seeing the Heaven Rank special move on the Birth Treasure outline was much more alarming to Su Xing. A Star General's Heaven Rank was their strongest technique, famous in Liangshan Continent, making people turn uneasy. Legends said that this Heaven Rank special move was placed above Transforming Star of Annihilation, and even peak Supervoid cultivators would be somewhat pressed to manage something against one. The first to comprehend a Heaven Rank in the Star Duels often could secure a position in the 7 Stars Assembly. However, Heaven Ranks were extremely difficult to comprehend. Other than relying on the Heaven Book, Star Generals that wanted to comprehend a Heaven Rank on their own required first-rate talent. The fact that even First Overlord Jade Qilin Lu Yuyu was unable to comprehend her Heaven Rank demonstrated the difficulty. Seeing the Heaven Rank, Wuxia and Gongsun Huang stretched their bodies taut, not daring to be careless. Su Xing was already considering first fleeing back to his immortal's abode. He had already decided to do this upon encountering the second Overlord. Anyways, however, for the second Overlord to appear right after the first Overlord ended, time truly left him somewhat unprepared. Su Xing had originally thought this would occur more or less at the treasure banquet. Never expected that I would unexpectedly walk right into a previous Overlord. I ought to be mocked right now. Su Xing chuckled. I am not mocking you. Dragon in the Clouds Gongsun Zhuqing calmly said. I am very thankful for your bamboo clarity stone. Su Xing smiled. To be able to receive the second Overlord's gratitude, it seems this was worth it. He took a deep breath, and his mind was already thinking rapidly. If the second Overlord was Dragon in the Clouds, powerful star magic would take away their advantage in numbers. The sole possibility was to keep close to Gongsun Zhuqing as much as possible, and then catch her off guard. Although magic energy-type star generals were powerful, their close combat was their weakness. However, upon seeing the extraordinary sword array of the Star Master beside Gongsun Zhuqing, displaying considerably brilliant sword arts, perhaps he would be somewhat thorny. Your servant is Yuwen Xingliang, Gongsun Zhuqing's Star Master. Yuwen Xingliang introduced himself. The surrounding bamboo sea changed into the forms of several thousand flying swords. His hand pointed, and a jadeite bamboo sword was gripped in his fingers. You must be the target of the trial then. Your servant is Su Xing. Do you dare to receive the trial your servant has set for you? Yuwen Xingliang calmly said. And what trial? Su Xing wrinkled his brow. I have already discussed this with Zhu Qing. We do not wish to take advantage of your difficulties at all. You have 2 choices. First choice is to kill us. Yuwen Xingliang's first choice was obvious to Su Xing. The second choice? The second choice, you and I will duel. If you can defeat your servant, the next part is to have your Star General set out. If she can withstand Zhu Qing's 3 moves, Earth Dark and Yellow, then you will be considered as having passed this trial. Yuwen Xingliang's conduct was righteous. He knew that the current phase of the Star Duels was the time to comprehend Earth ranks. If Gongsun Zhuqing used her Heaven rank, perhaps none of them could make a lucky escape. Su Xing did not reply. Rather, he looked to Wuxia and Gongsun Huang. Is your word any good? Wuxia coldly said. A gentleman does not go back on his word. Then the second. Since they could avoid facing Gongsun Sheng's Heaven rank, Su Xing naturally would not foolishly put his life on the line. Yuwen Xingliang actually was not surprised. He walked on the air, his expression calmly staring at Su Xing. Lord Husband, be careful. Wuxia exhorted. Gongsun Huang left Su Xing's shoulder, her eyes full of concern. Relax. Su Xing smiled. Even if his martial arts could face some earthly star martial generals, this naturally became a card up his sleeve against a Star Master. He gently leapt, similarly using Wandering the Clear Skies, and stood face to face in midair with Yuwen Xingliang. You only have 2-star generals? Yuwen Xingliang was bewildered. They are still resting. There's no need to disturb them. Su Xing faintly smiled. Yuwen Xingliang seemed to smile. Oh, you actually are considerate of them. But I wonder if you have the ability to be considerate, or if that is merely nothing more than words. His flying swords revolved, and a green rainbow appeared. Try and find out. Su Xing's eyebrows rose. Then witness your servant's Ksetra of heaven. Borderless sword array. Yuwen Xingliang's hand pointed. The serene bamboo forest surged in a split second. Countless green bamboo shoots shot up, surrounding Su Xing. 100 flying swords transformed constantly, indecipherable. Sword arrays, the strongest ability of flying swords. From just the instant slaughter of 100 cultivators and the supercluster ancestor, the might of this borderless sword array could be seen. With supervoid middle stage cultivation, his execution would naturally be extraordinary. It was a pity that Su Xing had only 3 of the immemorial sword chants. But the most fundamental of the 5 elements had yet to take form, and neither could he use any powerful sword array with them. Seeing sword lights suddenly burst all around him, any person with even a slightly weaker sense of awareness perhaps would disintegrate here without doubt. Su Xing's hand seals formed. Heavenly abyss spun, and countless sword lights rushed against heavenly abyss, exploding. Su Xing felt a heavy pressure hit him in the face. However, he would not sit and wait for death. He resisted the sword array's destruction. His hands once again formed a hand seal, and the metal element heaven-tearing swords drew a golden dragon that broke through the bamboo forest's encirclement. Yuwen Xingliang's eyes flashed with a sharp light. The borderless sword array showed a sea of bamboo and 10,000 arrows, continuous and endless. The golden dragon was pierced through mercilessly. It was instantly trapped, unable to move. What a formidable sword array! Su Xing took a deep breath. Suddenly, he spotted his opportunity and struck with his right hand. Purple Fiend attacked. The bamboo forest was cut down by Purple Fiend. The attack shot straight towards Yuwen Xingliang. The boundless sword array's sword light magnified, and layers of bamboo forest rushed forth to barely block. This purple star transforming chi ability was extremely thorny to begin with, and now that Su Xing had practiced it to the Purple Fiend level, even a sword array could barely trap it. The sea of bamboo was cut down into a complete mess by Purple Fiend. Yuwen Xingliang's expression changed. The blue splendid 8 treasure sword, in his hand once an immemorial divine weapon that had been passed down to him by a sword saint. The blue splendid 8 treasure sword danced, and 7 blue lotus flower flames contorted flickering. They were about the size of a pot, like 7 blue lotus flowers. They spread into an array, simultaneously emitting large pillars of fire that shot upwards. They split into thousands of different paths, just like fireworks. They appeared up and down at the same time and pounced. The entire bamboo forest sky was suddenly resplendent. This fire was known as Green Lotus Karma Fire Sword Array. 5. The second treasure of this blue splendid 8 treasure sword. Su Xing knew from just a look that this ability was formidable. He thought to himself that this was worthy of the Star Master of the Gong Sun Sheng, who was #1 in magic energy. Its power really was incredible, otherwise they could not have possibly become overlord. However, Su Xing naturally was not afraid. He merely sneered, flipped his wrist and showed a green jade. Then a humming whistle resounded. Countless green demon beasts flew out. These were the essence-swallowing dragons that Suwen had raised. Su Xing naturally came prepared this time. After he realized that the second overlord could be Gong Sun Sheng, the essence-swallowing dragons were temporarily lent to Su Xing. By relying on the essence-swallowing dragon's ability to devour the world's supernatural fires and spiritual power, the flames before him were no problem. The green light on the essence-swallowing dragons glowed bright, protecting their whole bodies. They were not afraid of the green lotus karma fire's burns in the slightest. The ferociously charged into the karma fire sword array. Su Xing and Suwen had their star nest contract, linking them together. Controlling the essence-swallowing dragons was not out of his reach, but suddenly he felt his whole body stiffen at this moment, as if a net had bound him. He circulated his magic energy, which was somewhat clogged. He was inwardly shocked. Yuwen Xingliang had already shook that blue splendid 8 treasure sword again. A green rainbow flowed from the sword tip, becoming thousands of threads, forming a large net that wrapped up the essence-swallowing dragons. This blue splendid 8 treasure sword has gathered and refined spirit materials from Maiden Mountain that Liangshan does not have. It is anything but a treasure of Liangshan. The green rainbow net wrapped up heaven and earth, completely capturing Su Xing's flying swords and the essence-swallowing dragons. Su Xing pointed his finger, and he exerted all of his star energy. Purple Fiend shot out with several bangs, not holding back at all, ripping apart that net that was flying over. With an earth-shattering buzz, it directly surged towards Yuwen Xingliang. That fire net covering the world seemed to scatter into sparks, shooting 10,000 zhang away, fading away into the air at the end. The originally luminous world suddenly dimmed. The green lotus karma fire sword array had met with the essence-swallowing dragons nibbling. The flames immediately depressed. You have some tricks. Yuwen Xingliang saw that his own blue splendid 8 treasure sword was unable to seize the advantage, and he was inwardly shocked. This man's abilities and tricks were honestly strange. Not saying anything more, he also circulated his star energy at the same time. His sleeves fluttered and the blue splendid 8 treasure sword broke out of his hand, flying high above him and hung there. The fourth ability of the blue splendid 8 treasure sword was a serene qi that protected Yuwen Xingliang's whole body. Light concentrated and did not disperse. Su Xing knew that his own advantage was in close range. If the light destroyed his powers, he clearly had no chance of winning against a super void middle stage. Relying on the essence-swallowing dragon's ferocity, he prepared to approach in one go. But upon seeing Yuwen Xingliang raise the blue splendid 8 treasure sword in his hand, Su Xing immediately sensed danger, and directed the essence-swallowing dragons to rotate. He ordered them to prepare for recall back into their astral stone. At the same time, his hand flung, and an earth book of yellow dust flew out. Empress Tu manifested her true body, her peerless magnificence and graceful complexion from the earth book. Empress Tu waved her sleeves, turning into a glaring yellow light flow that rushed in among the essence-swallowing dragons. The earth book that had undergone care had now mostly recovered. Empress Tu had even cultivated external projection before and already had intelligence. She was just one final step away, and no longer needed divine intent control. Empress Tu directly flipped over yellow dust and earthly qi. In an instant, she had wrapped the essence-swallowing dragons. Then Su Xing consecutively formed hand seals. After several loud wails, the slender essence-swallowing dragons were dyed with yellow dust. The Earth Book's powerful defenses protected the essence-swallowing dragons as they wildly flooded out. The green hurricane seemed to transform into a giant, fluttering sandstorm. Terrifying shrieks reverberated like continuous thunder. The dragons were crowded tail to head, inseparably piled together. They flew higher and higher, and from afar, they seemed to be one of the 5 sacred mountains. Thunderclaps burst, rolling down, directly clawing towards the blue splendid 8 treasure sword above Yuwen Xingliang's head. At the same time, Su Xing used the innate Bagua escape. The blue splendid 8 treasure sword withstood along with Yuwen Xingliang's incantation. The entire bamboo forest space suddenly changed. The blue splendid 8 treasure sword split off 10,000 rays of thin light rays. Yuwen Xingliang pointed the sword, and Su Xing immediately sensed a powerful pressure push down all at once. The earthly qi protecting the essence-swallowing dragons was firmly pinned, immobilizing them. Yuwen Xingliang was far from finished. A green light on the sword shot out, unstoppable. The flying swords hovering around him moved at the same time, washing past the earth book like a flood. The supervoid middle stage cultivator's star energy was frighteningly powerful. Even the strong earthly qi had been slightly chipped. Scar of Earth. 1 muddying clear stream sword array. 6 Yuwen Xingliang fiercely shouted. In a split second, space itself rebelled. The scene of the bamboo forest vanished. Then endless green light pounced over. Su Xing only felt his head hurt, and his divine intent was nearly destroyed. His heart was shocked. He had contracted a dozen star generals, had an extremely powerful divine intent, yet it unexpectedly was nearly defeated in an instant. This sword array really was terrifying. Su Xing's expression changed. He was forced to use his escape technique. Empress too flew into the clear stream to protect the essence-swallowing dragons. Su Xing at this moment also put his palms together, creating a sudden change. A giant golden lotus the size of 1,000 chi unfolded behind Su Xing. A golden lotus blossomed in the endless clear stream world, and Su Xing's whole body showed a golden color. This was the Akula Wisdom King chant. The golden lotus released millions of rays of light, and faced off against the rushing clear stream. Yuwen Xingliang's heart that had just calmed was once again jolted. The strength of the supercluster stage cultivator before him was honestly ridiculous. Each and every one of these abilities were outrageous, insufferably arrogant. If it was not for Su Xing being merely supercluster, if Su Xing had reached supervoid, then Yuwen Xingliang did not have the confidence to withstand him. Yuwen Xingliang sensed powerful pressure. He no longer dared to slight Su Xing, and continuously urged on the sword array. Golden light blossomed on one side, and a clear stream flowed on the other. Each was entangled, seeking dominance over the other. Lord Husband. Wuxia's knuckles were clenched white. She was very scared and on edge, gripping Noble Frost Demonic Lotus, ready to take action at any second. When she looked again to Gongsun Zhuqing, that star general was very calm, as if she did not mind at all what was happening inside. She merely stared blankly at the bamboo clarity stone in her hand, lost in thought. At this time, Gongsun Huang straddled the Dinu Heavenly Phoenix and flew in front of her. Dinu Heavenly Phoenix? Gongsun Zhuqing showed astonishment when she saw the star beast. Little Huang cannot allow His Highness to be the only one fighting. Gongsun Huang raised her pine-brand ancient sword. She gently waved it, and without another word, she used cloud-traveling azure dragon turn. Space was suddenly broken by star magic, and white clouds turned into a dragon. Gongsun Zhuqing softly grunted. She simultaneously used her own cloud-traveling azure dragon turn. The yellow rank star magic that true Phoenix realm Gongsun Zhuqing used naturally was far stronger than Gongsun Huang's. Each of their star magics clashed for no more than the blink of an eye. Little Huang's star magic was completely destroyed, and the remaining white dragon flew over. The Dinu Heavenly Phoenix flapped its wings. Beautiful flames danced and broke the leftover star magic. Gongsun Zhuqing's azure cloud dragon also roared and scuttled over. Phoenix and dragon struggled against one another. Gongsun Zhuqing's pine-brand ancient sword danced, using wind rolls away life. Gongsun Huang also used a wind rolls the clouds. Since you agree to the trial, I will not be lenient. This is what Zhuqing has promised Xingliang. Gongsun Zhuqing said. Her star crest suddenly glowed. Wind rolls away life shredded little Huang's wind rolls the clouds. An enormous green gale cut towards her like a sharp blade. Her phoenix perching red clouds clothes released red light that obstructed the wind rolls away life. Gongsun Zhuqing indifferently moved her divine intent, and another star magic trapped little Huang. Just as she was about to attain success in one stroke, at this moment, a sword tip met her. Bang! Gongsun Zhuqing's reactions were extremely quick, and she erected a barrier to stop this attack. The cool and elegant Wuxia inwardly grit her teeth. There is also your servant accompanying you. Then attack together. Gongsun Zhuqing calmly said. She fired a ray of star magic, and two swords blocked it. Just as Gongsun Zhuqing was about to continue her attack, the mountains suddenly rocked, and the world split apart. The entire space rumbled with a quaking motion. Space seemed to crumble. Gongsun Zhuqing looked. Gongsun Huang had already used her dark technique. Half-destroyed landscape. Space squeezed powerfully, the force crushing towards her. Gongsun Zhuqing had no choice but to defend with full power, but Gongsun Huang's plan was not her. There was a crumbling sound that Gongsun Huang turned her line of sight to look at. Yuwen Xingliang's sword array immediately broke. Truly smart. Gongsun Zhuqing faintly smiled. Although she said that she could not take action for Su Xing, the wide area destruction of half-destroyed landscape could not be considered help. However, this was somewhat cheating. Gongsun Zhuqing could not help but show slight praise for the little girl in front of her. Su Xing's meditative mind lotus flower broke, and at the same time, the already ebbing one muddying clear stream sword array suffered the effects of half-destroyed landscape, ending at the same time. Su Xing spat a large amount of blood. The strength of a supervoid cultivator was formidable, as expected. He nearly was about to be crushed to pieces. That earthly chi was thin as a cicada's wing, as if it would break at the slightest touch. Several hundred essence-swallowing dragons had been completely blasted to pieces, nothing more than ash, slain by the sword array. A good trick, relying on supercluster middle stage to surprisingly be able to withstand your servant's attack. No wonder Maiden Mountain would issue you a trial. Su Xing had squandered much of his star energy to resist as much as possible. And this Yuwen Xingliang was extremely ruthless. He used a sword array to try and kill the essence-swallowing dragons while trapping Su Xing had suffered failure. Yuwen Xingliang had originally thought that the blue splendid 8 treasure swords 3 great sword arrays used at full power could be able to defeat Su Xing. How could he have known that Su Xing's powers would be so mysterious and varied? Even if that was not half-destroyed landscape just now, Yuwen Xingliang could guess that this guy definitely still had tricks up his sleeve. Considering this, Su Xing already could not muster up any more chi. In a spurt of energy, he flew to Yuwen Xingliang's side. The 12 heaven-tearing swords combined pairs into one, breaking the green light protecting his body. Then the Bagua mirror shined. Yuwen x Xingliang completely did not expect Su Xing to still have strength. Just as Yuwen Xingliang was about to raise the blue splendid 8 treasure sword to block. How could he have foreseen that Su Xing would unexpectedly turn out a prehistoric spirit treasure? Because this Bagua mirror had suffered prior damage. Its might was not as great as it was before, but it was still fierce. The Bagua mirror shone and froze Yuwen Xingliang. Su Xing rushed forth. Without saying another word, his fingers snapped together. First, he struck with Purple Mansion Immortal Thunder. Yuwen Xingliang saw this attack was formidable, yet he was too late to put up a defense, too late to dodge, and was covered by the Bagua. Then, the Purple Mansion Immortal Thunder numbed his whole body. As if it was ripping him apart, the attack exploded upon him. Fortunately, this blue splendid 8 treasure sword and Yuwen Xingliang were linked from being life-cast. His final treasure was activated. Blue light surged, and its rays filled the sky. It rolled and contracted, sweeping aside the Purple Mansion Immortal Thunder. Then, he waved the sword and knocked Su Xing aside. Slowly, Yuwen Xingliang showed an excited smile. In the second generation of star duels, Yuwen Xingliang could say he was the absolute genius of that era. The blue splendid 8 treasure flying sword was practically unsurpassed in those star duels. From the very beginning, he left everyone in his dust. And he did not know how many plots his powerful teamwork with Gongsun Juqing had crushed. To be able to fight this well, I am also satisfied. Yuwen x Xingliang chuckled. If you have any other tricks, don't hesitate to them. Su Xing lowered his breathing, somewhat exhausted. Out of the corner of his eye, he sensed that Gongsun Huang and Wuxia were already engaging Gongsun Juqing. His heart only wanted to quickly settle this battle with Yuwen Xingliang. However, this star master truly was difficult to deal with. This was the first time that Su Xing had used all of his techniques, but could only barely fight evenly with the opponent. The 5 dragons lantern and the 4 symbols seal were kept tucked away, ready to fight at any moment. However, these prehistoric spirit treasures could not be used unless as a last resort. Upon use, all of his energy would be sucked dry. Similarly, this would exhaust Gongsun Huang as well. Last trick. Yuwen Xingliang's hand gripped the blue splendid 8 treasure sword. Since you are the star master of the star general that is #1 in magic energy, then the most fundamental close combat prowess is absolutely necessary. As he expected, the Yuwen Xingliang in front of him was also an expert sword cultivator. Just what I was looking for. Su Xing shouted. His silhouette dissipated, and a number of afterimages appeared. A star general's 10,000 techniques realm? Yuwen Xingliang was taken aback. He coldly grinned. The pleasant surprises truly never end. Clang clang. Sparks burst forth in the air. A ray of swordlight instantly unraveled. While the air was still frozen, it was ripped apart by a sword net of golden light. Bearing Su Xing's full power slash, he acted naturally without any mercy, leaving no openings. So fast. A dragon screeched, and the concentrated air was torn apart by the flurry of lights, letting out a vague scream. The sword tip that was just almost within reach was just like a bloodthirsty fang. Yuwen Xingliang blocked it in amazement, nearly missing altogether. He looked at Su Xing in astonishment, then in Yuwen Xingliang's eyes, Su Xing's gaze was nevertheless tranquil as water, as if everything was inevitable. That pure expression was just like a frail, yet sharp, razor blade, slicing his soul bit by bit. Yuwen Xingliang honestly did not expect that Su Xing's martial arts would be far more superb than he had imagined. This made him recall a star general he had once fought. As the star master of Jiangsun Juqing, Yuwen Xingliang naturally had battled often against star generals, from top-notch martial generals to earthly star martial generals. Yuwen Xingliang had experience with them all. Without mention of victory or defeat, just that battle experience absolutely could not be compared to an ordinary person. Fortunately, it was an experience of that sort. Yuwen Xingliang was deeply aware of the abnormality of these star general battles. He could not be even a bit careless. Perhaps he was deficient this time. Yuwen Xingliang thought to himself. He promptly waved his hand to block. The blue splendid 8 treasure sword was raised in front of his chest without any wasted movements. The next instant, the time between the two of them seemed to disintegrate. Sword chi shot out from one another. Yuwen Xingliang nodded, bearing slight fear. Truly superb martial arts. No wonder you can make Wu Song follow you. Your servant's first wife is but Lin Chong. Su Xing threw his shoulders, suddenly shooting over with his sword. If he had wanted a surprise attack just now, then he was too late. You indeed have Lin Chong. Yuwen Xingliang's eyebrows rose, and his heart was shaken because he did not see Lin Chong present. He had even thought that was no more than a rumor. He suddenly recalled their conversation earlier. It seemed this man truly wanted to protect his star generals. Interesting. The next moment, along with a dazzling slashing movement, sword chi wildly shot out from his sword tip. It directly launched towards Yuwen Xingliang. The latter hastily stepped back, raising his sword to defend. Green light protected his body. The next moment, Su Xing's attack slashed back from another angle like a wind's shadow. This time, the sharp blade broke through Yuwen Xingliang's defenses without stopping at all. The heaven-tearing sword ripped apart his defense. Yuwen Xingliang was considerably surprised about the trajectory of this sword shadow. However, Yuwen Xingliang's next movement similarly made Su Xing a bit surprised. Yuwen Xingliang's power exploded. Super void might stifled his chest, making Su Xing instinctively freeze for an instant, but it was this instant that he began his counterattack. The man's silhouette similarly manifested afterimages. The next second, that divine weapon already obstructed Su Xing's line of attack. Hooking and stabbing, Yuwen Xingliang's swordsmanship was similarly displayed, a stunning counterattack. Su Xing smiled. His footwork suddenly changed. He evaded Yuwen Xingliang's counterattack with light smoke dance steps. Yuwen Xingliang's eyes widened as he cut empty space. A chill shot through him. Superb body techniques and swordplay suddenly made the Yuwen Xingliang who had seized the initiative unable to help but defend. Su Xing turned defense into offense, completely not giving him an opening. Blades slashed at each other with speed too fast to track for the naked eye, and the combatants wandered all over the place. Then they beautifully fought while activating wandering the clear skies. From time to time, a sharp slash passed through the air. After that, there was immediately a wretched ripping sound. Not only this, but even the bamboo forest that had been manifested was sucked into the berserk sword wind, successively falling from high up down low. Glaring sparks and afterimages were dazzling. The Yuwen Xingliang who was in the middle of the sword shadows seemed to bear the pressure of a mountain. He was forced back step by step. Such formidable martial arts. Endless, continuous, uninterrupted. Is this Lin Chong's legendary innate skill that can surpass star generals? Battle doctrine? Just as he thought this, a prick of cold light suddenly flit past his eyes. With a crisp sound, Yuwen Xingliang hacked with his sword, once again mobilizing his super void power to jolt back Su Xing. At the same time he finally ended Su Xing's continuous assault. Yuwen Xingliang did not feel any ease. His face wore an unprecedented sternness. Despite that this was merely a continuous attack, in fact each slash's technique made Yuwen Xingliang startled, as if he was back fighting a top-notch star general. Instantly, There was unexpectedly a kind of feeling that he was fighting majestic star Ling Chong. But how can this be? Yuwen Xingliang stared at Su Xing, his gaze ice-cold. How can this man have grown to such a frightening degree at this phase? What? Want to end the trial? Su Xing saw he was staring and could not help but mockingly ask. Of course, he was not at all clear about Yuwen Xingliang's current doubts. His heart was currently speechless about his responses just now. He had staked all of his strength to go attack. Yet Yuwen Xingliang's defenses were still methodical, impeccable. You are so strong. Maiden Mountain would fear, no, she ought to be even happier. Yuwen Xingliang showed an odd grin. Truly a pity. And? Su Xing stared, concentrated on his every move. This man was very strong. He could not be heedless. Yuwen Xingliang's deep-as-water expression that completely lacked ripples made Su Xing's heart shiver slightly with unease. Just what was this guy saying? In a moment, Su Xing realized Yuwen Xingliang's plan. A blue and green light enveloped Yuwen Xingliang. His cheat-like supervoid stage star energy began to reach its greatest, protecting him. His sword it pointed directly at Su Xing. It shot out during the sharp sound of metal cutting apart the air. All of the surroundings instantly seemed to freeze. The words that Su Xing wanted to say were frozen. The sword he wielded before that instant was stiff as iron. The air no longer flowed, and energy stopped its transmission. Yuwen Xingliang explosively shouted, displaying several shadows that attacked. Su Xing shouted, acting at the same time without holding back. At the instant he came back to himself, Su Xing already raised his speed to the fastest he could. Then, in the eternity of this instant, Su Xing nevertheless discovered he had no possibility of dodging. Yuwen Xingliang's attack that stopped everything practically made Su Xing amazingly recall top-notch star generals. In fact, what Su Xing was thinking was correct. This attack was the quintessence that Yuwen Xingliang had refined from countless life-or-death battles with star generals. All of his attacks were under this sword. Ordinary star generals would meet their end with only a moment of carelessness. But Su Xing had already fought numerous times. The sparring he had done with the girls suddenly flashed across his mind. The blades that flit by like afterimages were immediately blocked, and he used this possibility. At the first moment, he stirred up all of his body's star energy. Heavenly abyss protected him. With a sneer, Yuwen Xingliang arrived. His wrist twisted the blue splendid 8 treasure sword. The sword's jadeite swordlight drew trail after trail in the air at high speed, twisting across Su Xing's arms, chest and whole body like a gale. But at this instant, his insufferably arrogant defense was torn to shreds by sharp rays of light. Su Xing's expression froze. Yuwen Xingliang's attack was far more terrifying than he had imagined. His senses very quickly knew that against a super void sword saint, holding back was only a dead end. He promptly withdrew. He retreated with light smoke dance steps. Yuwen Xingliang did not hesitate at all to pursue. Sword light twisted from behind him, forming an absolutely large net. Up until this moment, Su Xing only then reacted. Turning his head back, he stared at Yuwen Xingliang with an expression of disbelief at his sword that seemed to dominate time and space. Watch the final treasure, 7 doppelgangers sword array. 7 Yuwen Xingliang shouted. Instantly, 7 of Yuwen Xingliang's figures surrounded Su Xing. Each appeared like the real one, drawing identical smiles on the corner of their lips, wearing the same mocking expressions on their faces. Even their attack power, pace and breathing were identical. 1 Yuwen Xingliang was enough to give Su Xing a headache, let alone 7. What a cheat! The 7 Yuwen Xingliangs raised swords and slashed at Su Xing. Each angle and trajectory, Su Xing could not ponder any more. Heavenly abyss protected him, and heaven tearing flit by at the same time. Although there were 7, this was no more than an illusion of speed. Su Xing's hand pointed. A silver frost flame flew out. Instant frost flame. Yuwen Xingliang cried out in shock. Instant frost flame immediately stopped his real body completely. The only one capable of activity was the real one. This is bad. Yuwen Xingliang saw Su Xing's smirk. The next instant, Su Xing and his sword had already become a bolt of lightning. They shot directly towards Yuwen Xingliang again. The 10,000 techniques realm Su Xing's speed was absolutely fast. Shit. His whole body hurt. Yuwen Xingliang clanged backwards. Hey, can't go on like this? I'm only getting started. Su Xing was very excited. His eyes were full of an unprecedented triumph. Originally, I thought no one among the Star Masters could have done this, but today I realized. I was a bit overconfident. Yuwen Xingliang curled his lips with difficulty. Even when he faced a top-notch star general, he had never cut such a sorry figure. Too sorry. It seems you have inherited Lin Chang's innate skill considerably perfectly. Yuwen Xingliang's superb cultivation was completely useless, at least when battling the enemy from the front. Ling Yingmei is my first wife, what do you say? Su Xing licked his lips, and his figure suddenly vanished. Yuwen Xingliang noticed that he completely had no chance to keep up. The battle had only just begun. Su Xing's assertion did not have any intent to be kidding. Yuwen Xingliang curled the corner of her lips. Conceding defeat was not his style. The next second, both of them attacked again. Su Xing's heaven-tearing swords emitted golden light. Along the way, the sword tips changed randomly, as if they could appear at any moment. Each attack would draw a long and stiff trajectory in the air, and after that, they swept forth with the weight of 10,000 caddies. Yuwen Xingliang barely resisted, so much so that he was already unable to consider any further Su Xing's attack pattern. He could only rely on his super void might to suppress Su Xing's frenzied assault. Against this sort of Star Master, he unexpectedly could only rely on super void cultivation. The excellent martial arts he thought he had completely were useless. Each strike, each impact made his blood vessels swell. Each time their naked blades crossed bluntly, each metallic exchange spilled forth sparks. Yuwen Xingliang would shudder backwards under each enormous recoil, but not long after, the next collision would bring an even heavier, an even more violent momentum, bursting with sparks that were even more blinding. Yuwen Xingliang had waited for this. Despite the gradual numbness in his hand from each impact of his weapon, his mind still maintained absolute calm, just like with those star generals he had fought before. The man was very clear that such a battle required him to waste extremely great amounts of energy. Finally, a gap would appear, and so long as this gap appeared, that would be his advantage. As expected, not long after, Su Xing showed exhaustion in his tidal wave-like sequence of attacks. The heaven-tearing sword's tips passed by the side, showing just a crack of a gap. Yuwen Xingliang promptly seized this opportunity. Like a panther, he excitedly pounced. The blue Splendid 8 treasure sword released its final strength. How could he have anticipated? Su Xing's heaven-tearing swords blocked the gap. Yuwen Xingliang was stunned. Not good, I have been fooled. Light smoke dance steps circled around, and Yuwen Xingliang retreated. Just at this moment, Su Xing raised the heaven-tearing sword. Yuwen Xingliang had no choice but similarly raise his own flying sword. Yet everything was in Su Xing's calculations. Just when he raised his flying swords, Su Xing had already instantly arrived right under his nose, his fists waving. A supercluster cultivator thinks he can suppress a super void cultivator? Yuwen Xingliang was forced back by Su Xing's outburst. His fists punched. Boom. Their fists clashed with one another. Yuwen Xingliang suddenly felt the power in that fist was extremely powerful. Su Xing used the monster strength innate skill to catch Yuwen Xingliang's fist and nearly crush his bones. Pulling backwards, Yuwen Xingliang could not help but be pulled along. Immediately afterwards, Su Xing's boxing began his assault. Punch after punch landed on his chest, striking Yuwen Xingliang like a sandbag, making him vomit blood. Fuck. He surprisingly completely lost to a supercluster cultivator. Yuwen Xingliang truly had the mind to die. The unhindered master of the second star duels had unexpectedly completely lost to the Su Xing in front of him despite the situation of having higher cultivation. Yuwen Xingliang coldly said, "Why don't you kill me?" Although Su Xing successfully defeated Yuwen Xingliang, their cultivations were still different. Su Xing already was practically drained, and Yuwen Xingliang still had some energy left. If he was to make a move now, he could definitely change the situation, but this completely lacked meaning. Yuwen Xingliang was very clear that in the close quarters attack just now, the man in front of them completely had the chance to slay him. I believe that Gongsun Zhuqing's Star Master can at least keep his promise. Su Xing was aloof, yet his heart was inwardly cursing. Do you think I don't want to kill you? But there's no advantage to killing you. If it was not for his apprehension about Gongsun Zhuqing, Su Xing would not have been merciful. Something like a promise was no more than the utterance of an instant. Humph. Yuwen Xingliang did not say anything. His whole body had already relaxed his guard, his willpower disappearing. Su Xing at this time placed all of his attention on the Star General's battle. Gongsun Zhuqing continuously casted numerous star magics. However, the star magics that she used were not among the heaven, dark, earth or yellow. Although her magic energy was profound, Gongsun Huang and Wuxia could handle them. They just could not seize an advantage. I wonder what this little sister's true name is? Gongsun Zhuqing saw that Jiangsun Huang's age was little, yet her domineering aura was very formidable. Each of them dueled with various tricks. These star magics were not related to realm. The comparison was between the star energy between themselves and their own star masters. In terms of star energy, Gongsun Zhuqing occupied the absolute advantage, but Gongsun Huang's phoenix perching red clouds clothes rays of red light were mere normal star magic that could not cope at all. Just Huang. Gongsun Huang calmly replied. She pointed her sword, and a red sword light slashed towards Gongsun Zhuqing. Gongsun Zhuqing indifferently nodded and said, "A good name." She then also released several rays of green sword light to counter. Wuxia wrinkled her brow, stopping her attack. The star magic of the overlord before her was too powerful, and she had no way to close the distance. Seeing Su Xing and Yuwen Xingliang's battle had ended, she breathed a sigh of relief. After she made eye contact with Su Xing, she then went to attack the Azure Cloud Dragon. Wind rolls away life. Gongsun Zhuqing softly said. Her pine brand ancient sword light twisted, disintegrating Gongsun Huang's sword light. It then slashed upon her cloak. Gongsun Huang knew the formidability of the senior before her, and she already knew her own star magic was no match for Gongsun Zhuqing. Her attempts with dark rank techniques were futile, but she still released as much as she could, only for all of them to completely be twisted to dust. Does little Huang still want to persist? Gongsun Zhuqing softly said. Suddenly, a dozen golden sword lights floated by. The fact was they were Su Xing's flying sword support array. Gongsun Zhuqing pleasantly smiled, and repelled the flying swords with a wave of her blade. A dragon's roar came from the sky. Gongsun Zhuqing lifted her head to look and spotted the new heavenly phoenix, white and black unicorn tiger, and the azure cloud dragon were engaged in a great battle. Two star beasts against a mighty fierce beast with light. The three colors of white, red and green bubbled forth in the skies. The azure cloud dragon's body swam away, its claws torn up with several wounds. Yet the new heavenly phoenix surprised Gongsun Zhuqing herself. The gorgeous phoenix flames surged into the sky and rolled about. Then Su Xing and Wuxia arrived to assist. Not a moment later, the azure cloud dragon was dispatched. At this time, Gongsun Zhuqing was alone and facing the encirclement of Su Xing's party and star beasts. Your Highness, Su Xing truly does not disappoint Zhuqing. Gongsun Zhuqing's smile was like a spring breeze. Zhuqing knew you would defeat Xingliang. Hey Zhuqing, your words make me very hurt. Yuwen Xingliang protested. Gongsun Zhuqing smiled tenderly at him. Gongsun Zhuqing, why are you doing this? Su Xing doubtfully asked. He was not convinced merely gifting a stone could make Gongsun Zhuqing so willing to throw the trial. This is very fair. Gongsun Zhuqing matter-of-factly said. I have a question I want to ask you. Gongsun Zhuqing said. What is it? The Star Duel's wish, what would you do with it? After I ascend Maiden Mountain, I will end the Star Duels. Su Xing said instantly. This had been his goal all along. Really? Gongsun Zhuqing smiled. Su Xing nodded and seriously said. The wish of my wives is also my wish. Gongsun Zhuqing continued to smile. A man that is able to be fancied by so many sisters is indeed not disappointing. Gongsun Zhuqing, just what do you want to say? Wuxia wrinkled her brow. Zhuqing, quickly finish the trial. Yuwen Xingliang urged. We can perhaps stay a little longer. Gongsun Zhuqing nodded. Since Su Xing had already defeated Yuwen Xingliang, the leisure star decided to no longer hold back. She raised the Pine Brand Ancient Sword. If you can withstand Zhu Qing's dark rank and earth rank, then you will have passed. Wait a moment, there's people here. Let's go to the sea. Su Xing saw that the bamboo forest had already faded away. Blackwater City had been shocked, with cultivators hiding away in fear from Gongsun Zhu Qing's powerful star magic, but this place was mostly a civilian area. With the power of Gongsun Zhu Qing's second dark technique half-destroyed landscape, perhaps the entire island would be destroyed. Su Xing did not want to unexpectedly harm innocents. Yuwen Xingliang was taken aback and chortled. Gongsun Zhu Qing agreed. They moved to the center of the ocean by wandering the clear skies. Take this. Gongsun Zhu Qing's tone was calm to the extreme. Her Pine Brand Ancient Sword shook. Suddenly, the calm seas quaked, and the skies trembled. A tsunami wildly gushed forth. Frightening pressure squeezed from every direction, as if it wanted to crush Su Xing's group into submission. Su Xing opened the meditative mind lotus flower, and activated Buddhism's most powerful defensive ability, Akala Wisdom King True Body. Wuxia also took Noble Frost Demonic Lotus into her hand. The four-star destined weapon cut into space, shattering the oppressive feeling attacking them. A trickle of blood flowed from the corner of Gongsun Huang's mouth. She was not shaken at all as her fingers fluttered. Similarly, she used her dark technique. Half-destroyed landscape. Two powerful forces clashed against one another, and Su Xing immediately used resonance. A beautiful star crest appeared. The strength of the disadvantaged Gongsun Huang once again increased. Resonance, huh? Yuwen Xingliang ruminated. It was a pity that their true spirit state meant they already did not have a star nest. They could not resonate either. Otherwise, he truly wanted to have a contest with this man in this aspect. The defeated Yuwen Xingliang somewhat regretfully sighed. A shout came from the Longevity Palace. The heavenly hero Red Luan spread its wings and burned in the sky. Hua Wanyue immediately drew her bow as she stood on the Red Luan's back. The arrow pierced through as a rainbow, ripping apart space as it attacked Lin Yingmei. The corner of Lin Yingmei's mouth slightly pursed, and she charged to meet it head-on. Her chillingly beautiful pupils reflected the light flying over. And just as she was about to dodge, at this moment, Lin Yingmei became distracted. She hesitated a moment, and by the time Lin Yingmei came to her senses, the arrow was already in front of her. She leaned away but was penetrated by the arrow. She immediately took a heavy step back. Yingmei. Hua Wanyue turned pale. Disregarding their spar, she leapt down from the Red Luan. Yingmei, are you all right? Hua Wanyue's feelings of concern were shown through her words. And Suwen and the other girls hastily gathered around. The efficacious star used life-returning magic hands to heal the wound. Lin Yingmei's brow wrinkled tight in distress. She looked at Wu Xinjie. Young master is in danger. The knowledge star had her head lowered in reckoning. When she heard Lin Yingmei's words, her expression was stern. An overlord has come. Hunyangzi's pupils shrunk. Without hesitation, she somersaulted and mounted her horse, flying out of the Longevity Palace. He has Wuxia and Gongsun Huang. If they encountered an overlord, did he not already promise to return? Hua Wanyue shook her head. She did not believe at all that Su Xing, Wuxia, and Gongsun Huang could contend against an overlord. Your servant must go. Lin Yingmei did not utter another word. She straddled Crying Frost and turned into a ray of cold light that vanished. Following close behind, Wu Xinjie, Zhang Yuqi and the other girls boarded the star-riding boat. A long while afterwards, the pressure finally faded. The seas calmed, and Su Xing breathed a sigh of relief. The contest between two identical dark techniques of the leisure stars that were number one in magic energy truly was over the top. A range of 100 li of ocean was already rendered into empty space by half-destroyed landscape. The sea water was broken completely apart, incomparably spectacular. Labor had appeared in the breathing of little Huang, which in Su Xing's memory had always been tranquil. Su Xing did not feel ease. His heart was even more grim, because there was still Gongsun Zhu Qing's earth-rank technique next. Wifey, you go for now. Su Xing whispered. He did not want to make Wuxia step into the muddy waters of this earth rank. Your servant is here, Lord Husband is here. If your servant flees, then she will also make Lord Husband emerge safe and sound. Wuxia was resolute. Who let you come protect me, wifey? Su Xing helplessly smiled. Wuxia snorted. Ha! Gongsun Zhuqing's expression was not furious, only naturally mighty. Her voice was like a clap of thunder, and the pine-brand ancient sword in her hand was flung towards the sky. That 4-star destined weapon's light was fathomless, becoming something like a giant bell that enveloped them. A pitch-black space enclosed Su Xing's surroundings. As far as he could see, the bright day had become dark night. Earth rank technique. Sun, moon, and stars. Do your best. If I may offer a bit of advice, use everything you can. Back then, harm star Wu Yinglan perished under sun, moon, and stars. Yuwen Xingliang's voice of warning echoed in the darkness. Careful. Su Xing immediately felt chills. Without any hesitation, he used all of his defensive measures. The Empress 2 Earth Book, Heavenly Abyss shields, every sort of magic weapon and talisman were deployed back to back. A muffled thundering, like an explosion in the midst of chaos. The dark space suddenly manifested countless stars, like glittering pearls. In the blink of an eye, Gongsun Zhuqing pointed her finger, and the stars in the curtain of blackness were smashed towards Su Xing and the others like a torrential downpour. The scene of 10,000 stars falling was incomparably shocking. Just this was enough to collapse a cultivator's divine intent. Blood spurted into Su Xing's throat. The Earth Book, Heavenly Abyss, magic weapons, and talismans simultaneously received and obstructed the falling stars. With a voila, the magic weapons and talismans were destroyed within seconds. The Earth Book Empress 2 and Heavenly Abyss were prehistoric level, but could barely hold out. Endlessly receiving the impacts of the star magic, these two were lifebound to Su Xing. Each strike made Su Xing's mind about to explode, inflicting him with extreme pain. Your Highness. Gongsun Huang cried out in worry. Little Huang, you must use your earth rank in order to withstand this. Leave Lord Husband's protection to your servant. Wuxia flew up, scuttling into the 10,000 stars. Noble Frost Demonic Lotus split into 2 swords. The Harm Star wielded each sword dexterously, using her powerful star weapon to break the stars. Gongsun Huang was moved. She tightly shut her eyes and whispered to herself. Her star crest flickered, and a flowing light spanned, constructing a magnificent array. Can you use your earth rank in time? Gongsun Zhuqing muttered. Empress 2 grunted. Her curtain of yellow-orange earth chi was shredded by the stars. Su Xing violently vomited blood, and the Earth Book immediately lost its spiritual power. The true Spirit Empress 2 benevolently waved her long sleeve. Yellow dust rolled, and in the end, with the combined power of Wuxia and the Heavenly Abyss forged from Black Turtle Divine Iron, the 10,000 stars finally faded away. However, the Earth rank technique Sun, Moon, and Stars had only just begun. A soft light glimmered in the night. A shining, bright moon appeared behind Gongsun Zhuqing. This moon was glittering and pure, like a jade plate. Then, it grew larger and larger, dragging a long tail that then smashed towards them. This time, Su Xing already had no means left to block it. The new Heavenly Phoenix and White and Black Unicorn Tiger rushed towards the moon. The moon's radiance released the power of 1,000 caddies. With a boom, the White and Black Unicorn Tiger was crushed to pieces by the moon. At the same time, the new Heavenly Phoenix unfolded its wings, and a sky-covering conflagration ignited into an enormous net. Afterwards, this normally lofty new Heavenly Phoenix sensed its master's intentions, and it charged towards the moon without holding back at all. 2. After an enormous explosion, the moon disintegrated. This is the Earth rank star magic of number 1 in magic energy Gongsun Sheng. In but an instant, she had destroyed star beasts and broken every sort of ability. Su Xing felt chills. Lord Husband, careful. It still is not over. Wuxia shouted. Sun, moon, and stars, don't tell me there's still the sun. Su Xing cursed to himself. Hua. 3. The temperature suddenly turned broiling hot. The pitch-black world was practically burned away by a fireball. The giant, Sky-burning fireball appeared under Su Xing's curses. The seawater thundered and was bleakly burned away. Then allow your servant to experience just how you defeated my senior. Wuxia shouted. She soared into the sky, thinking of using her double swords to catch the fireball. But she had just flew up a step when she was held back. Wifey, don't go. Su Xing used the chaotic tail escape to embrace Wuxia, immediately dragging her back. The temperature of 10,000 degrees burned their skin into cracking. It seriously seemed as if the sun was falling. Just the head-on fan wind made Su Xing unable to breathe. He hastily circulated his magic energy and used the chaotic tail escape. He might as well see things through to the end since he had already started escaping. Although this was a bit humiliating, there would still be more chances. The 10,000 zhang fireball illuminated the world into a complete red. The seawater dried up and turned into a bottomless abyss. Su Xing hugged Wuxia. And then in another instant, he constantly rushed about in the abyss. This is only earth rank, your servant can handle it. Seeing Su Xing's whole body appeared blood-red, Wuxia's face paled. Su Xing paid no attention to her. Wuxia bit her lips tightly. If she comprehended her earth rank, she would not be so passive. But this earth rank could not be comprehended simply by willing it. In particular, it was much more difficult to comprehend without a contract when compared to having one. Those as fortunate as Hua Wanyue were limited to only a few in each generation. Wuxia looked at Gongsun Huang again. She was still reciting her incantation. Her magnificent star array was increasingly beautiful and even more complex. From time to time, light formed an azure dragon, and from time to time, it turned into a phoenix. Seeing that Gongsun Huang would not make it, Wuxia inwardly worried. She stared at Su Xing's face that was currently concentrating completely. Wuxia's eyes turned very gentle, and Wuxia could not help but extend her hand to wipe the beads of sweat on his brow. The sun's fire already put Su Xing on a dead end. Su Xing's chaotic tail escape received the high temperature, and his speed clearly slowed. Wuxia already made her resolution. She prepared to sign a kiss contract with Su Xing. With a pact, regardless of her or Su Xing, either one could contend against the sun, moon, and stars. Lord Husband. Wuxia softly called. What's the matter? Su Xing stopped his flight. He turned around to see the sun flying towards him had also arrived in front of Gongsun Huang. He might as well prepare the jade pendant to escape. Wuxia's hands clasped Su Xing's face. Xio. Just as Wuxia was about to say something, at this very moment, a sharp arrow whistled by, piercing through the sun and shooting directly for Su Xing's stomach. A dazzling rainbow light dispersed Su Xing's surroundings. Multicolored light turned into a curtain, and it suddenly suppressed the sun's fire instantly. The temperature then plunged into extreme cold. The two of them were astonished and looked. The soaring flames were already frozen. Cold frost annihilated, and icy snow howled. With a crack, the sun split apart. A girl of ice-like coldness pierced the sun with one thrust of her spear. Astonishingly, it was Lin Yingmei and her earth rank technique. Ice heart seals sun and moon. 5 crash. This sudden turnaround surprised them. Young master. Lin Yingmei's face was pale. She had finally cut down the sun. The pitch-black space instantly regained its light. Sun, moon, and stars announced its defeat. Su Xing looked. Lin Yingmei, Wu Xinjie, Hunyangzi, Yin Yizhen and the rest had already arrived. Even farther away, there was also Hua Wanyue standing on the red lawn, drawing her bow to fire arrows. Without another word, they were about to attack Gongsun Zhuqing. Stop. Su Xing hastily called for them to pause. Dear husband. Hunyangzi was confused. She is not an enemy. Su Xing shook his head. Wu Xinjie was stupefied. Gongsun Zhuqing recalled her star magic, and Su Xing then explained the course of events. Yuwen Xingliang was stupefied by the scene he saw in front of him. Carefully counting, there were at least 10 star generals, and there were even 2 that had comprehended earth rank. He inwardly thought that this was strange. This battle formation was too terrifying. If he had this power from the very beginning, it was not easy to say who would win and who would lose. As expected, she is dragon in the clouds Gongsun Sheng. Xingliang wryly smiled. She unexpectedly had a heaven-rank special move. Truly, Xingliang did not expect you would have this trial. Zhuqing did not expect he would have so many sisters in accompaniment either. Just now, Su Xing said he wanted to protect you. It seems this is somewhat logical. Gongsun Zhuqing faintly nodded, as if acknowledging Su Xing's words. Do you still want to fight? Our agreement is fulfilled. Since the three magics of earth, dark and yellow were used, Zhuqing shall stop here. Gongsun Zhuqing shook her head, no longer wishing to fight. Then truly many thanks. Xingliang smiled and said. With matters having reached this stage, they had at long last passed through this second overlord's trial with little more than fright. Recalling the sun, moon, and stars just now, all of the girls were speechless. The entire sea region had been dried into a canyon. This star magic was truly frightening. Su Xing. Gongsun Zhuqing said. Su Xing looked at the girl. A stone suddenly flew over. Su Xing caught it in passing. It was a gray runestone carved into a strange dragon. There were faint traces of strong power. This is a runestone. Dragon that holds candles. 6. If you wish to comprehend Zhuqing's heaven rank, then you can have little Huang open it. It can be used only once. Gongsun Zhuqing unhurriedly said. Su Xing was stunned. Heaven rank star magic. Don't misunderstand. This absolutely is not an exchange of vows. Zhuqing belongs to this palace. Don't you have strange thoughts? Yuwen Xingliang chuckled. You gifted Zhuqing a runestone, and neither does she want to owe you a favor. Therefore, she's gifting you the dragon that holds candles. Now we are considered even. Su Xing, if you truly wish to accomplish your wish, when you ascend Maiden Mountain in the future, you will encounter even greater danger. Perhaps it will help you. Gongsun Zhuqing then said. Su Xing heard her implication and nodded, carefully thanking her. There is still a bit of time. We are not wasting it. Yuwen Xingliang glanced at those numerous beautiful ladies, wearing a bit of envy. Cherish them well. After saying this, Gongsun Zhuqing nodded. With wandering the clear skies, they very quickly disappeared into the horizon. Heaven rank runestone? This is stars. 7. Young Su, did you have an affair with that Zhuqing? She surprisingly gave you her heaven rank. Su Xing rolled his eyes at her. Only little Huang can use this heaven rank, little Huang. Your Highness. Gongsun Huang blinked. Just now, she appeared preoccupied. Those extraordinary eyes fell upon Su Xing's own. Su Xing understood and smiled. He gently stroked little Huang's head. Let's go home. Wifey, did you have anything you wanted to say to me just now? Su Xing walked to Wuxia and asked. Nothing. Wuxia replied without changing her face. Su Xing showed an expectant expression. Did you want to sign a contract just now? Without letting Wuxia explain, Su Xing continued to say. Xio, you and I already call each other husband and wife. Just when can I sign a contract with you? I really want to do it. Wuxia was silent for a moment. Her eyes were charming, and she mysteriously smiled. Lord husband, are you not reassured about your servant? Of course not, but signing a contract is insurance. Su Xing chuckled. Lord husband need not worry. Is the 7 stars assembly still not far off? Wuxia played with a lock of hair that had fallen across her shoulder. Calm as a dry well, her reply was also very indifferent. If Lord husband has faith in your servant, then do not make more trouble for your servant. Your servant has her own plans and asks Lord husband to understand. When Wuxia's words mentioned this, Su Xing could not say anything more. Although he did not know whether Wuxia's allowance was to not sign a star dual covenant for the time being, or to be unwilling henceforth, Su Xing had already resolved himself. No matter what, he would not allow Wuxia to go do anything foolish. Right, Lord husband ought to be a bit more concerned with little Huang. Wuxia softly used sound transmission. The Gongsun Huang sitting on Su Xing's shoulder had been a bit absent-minded all along. Clearly, she was somewhat disappointed. Su Xing knew that the taciturn little Huang was afraid that because she did not use her earth rank to conquer Gongsun Zhuqing in the end, there was a bit of a sore spot. Little Huang. Su Xing gently called. Your Highness. Gongsun Huang's sight regained its focus. How about we go bathe together in a moment? Fighting for so long is exhausting. Gongsun Huang nodded, already very accustomed to doing this with Su Xing. She did not feel embarrassed at all. Yet it was Wuxia's earlobes that felt hot when she heard this. It truly was inevitable and right for these two to take a married couple's bath. Gongsun Huang's appearance seemed 7, 8 or 9 years old, but star generals did not have ages. According to rank, Gongsun Huang still counted as her elder sister. Xio, let's go together? No. Wuxia was firm. You said we are husband and wife, what's there to be embarrassed about? Su Xing counterattacked with the words Wuxia just said. Wuxia glared at Su Xing. She softly grunted, not saying anything this time. Huaqing Pool, a dense immortal qi rose in spirals. The clear water rippled. Su Xing was currently enjoying a soak in the bath. The pure white mist gradually dispersed, and then came the sounds of footsteps. Su Xing opened his eyes. Gongsun Huang took small, quick steps and entered the Huaqing Pool. The little loli was completely naked like before. She jumped into the pool and swam into Su Xing's embrace. Su Xing slightly smiled and used his hand to comb Gongsun Huang's beautiful, long hair. Gongsun Huang closed her eyes. Little Huang, are you still thinking about what happened before? Su Xing began to wipe Gongsun Huang's body. Gongsun Huang's skin was very supple, and Su Xing appeared very careful of hurting her with each scrub. Gongsun Huang nodded. That Gongsun Zhuqing has already gone through the 3 heavenly books, has already attended the 7 Stars Assembly, and she scaled Maiden Mountain. Her superiority right now is very normal. Su Xing smiled. Even you shouldn't be so dispirited, Little Huang. But your Highness defeated your senior Star Master. Little Huang could not do the same. So it turned out to be this. Su Xing teased Little Huang's chin. If it wasn't for Little Huang using half-destroyed landscape to break the encirclement, it would also have been hard for me to say. We're together in this. We share in honor and disgrace in life and death. Don't take responsibility by yourself. Your Highness speaks so pleasantly. Gongsun Huang lowered her brow. If you can listen, that would be even better. Su Xing was full of love for her. Among all of the wives, Gongsun Huang was bigger than Tang Tang by just a bit, but her personality was extraordinarily refined. She generally had a sort of air that placed herself above the common populace. In addition, his contract with Gongsun Huang could be said to be lightning quick. Although Hunyangzi signed her contract even more quickly, there was at least a long time of mutual understanding. However, even if Su Xing wanted to deeply understand Gongsun Huang, he did not know where to start. Often being together with Gongsun Huang was one of the roundabout ways Su Wing wanted to understand her. Yingmei comprehended her earth rank, and even Hua Wanyue has also comprehended her earth rank. But Little Huang was nevertheless no help this time. Gongsun Huang showed slight melancholy. As a top-notch star general in magic energy, it was still by relying on Lin Yingmei and Hua Wanyue in the end to break their encirclement that made Gongsun Huang dejected. This is the first time that I've seen you like this, Little Huang. Su Xing's mouth hung agape. Gongsun Huang's appearance right now was extremely beautiful. Water droplets moistened her body, and her pupils contained an amorous glance. That slightly faint grief stripped away the refined appearance Gongsun Huang always had in his memory. It was replaced with the tender love only a normal woman could have. In an instant, Su Xing was thoroughly captivated. Su Xing was able to take a married couple's bath with Little Huang without any feeling of wrongdoing. One very major reason was that Gongsun Huang in his heart was only an adorable daughter figure, so Su Xing did not feel improper or embarrassed at all about his scrubbing motions, which were somewhat intimate. However, Gongsun Huang's daughter-like worried figure right now reminded Su Xing. The girl in front of him was far from the daughter in his mind, and neither was she that kind of little girl that was innocent and naive. She was Leisure Star Dragon in the clouds Gongsun Huang, the first-rate star general that was #1 in magic energy, ranked 4th. Even Lin Yingmei and the other girls addressed her as elder sister. Your Highness. Gongsun Huang softly called. Her voice was as indifferent as before, however, Su Xing nevertheless felt this time it had an additional bit of charm. Su Xing regained his senses. He saw that Gong Sun Huang's cheeks were like red apples. As it turned out, Su Xing had temporarily blanked, and his hands just happened to stop on little Huang's tiny chest of sharply exposed little lotus buds. I'm an evildoer. At this instant, Su Xing was unable to treat Gong Sun Huang as that innocent girl. His blood boiled, and his lower body could not help but begin to raise its head in thought. Gong Sun Huang faintly groaned. Her little hands grabbed Su Xing's knees and she blinked. Su Xing hastily circulated the heart-like mirror in order to recover his normal state. His body shuddered in cold sweat, and he scolded himself for being a beast. How could he have those kinds of thoughts just now? Your Highness, do you remember if that incantation you kept reciting back then was about to activate your earth rank? Su Xing changed the topic. But that feeling is already very faint to little Huang. Gong Sun Huang cocked her head and showed vexation. This was precisely the reason she was disappointed. Just as she saw the earth rank was in front of her, she was nevertheless slowly defeated. It was no wonder that the light as clouds dragon in the clouds would be gloomy. Little Huang, let's spar. How about we coax it out while you still have that feeling? Su Xing flashed with a halo. Can we? Gong Sun Huang cocked her head. Of course we can. The precondition is that you must be at full strength. Then we'll try. Su Xing smiled. And Su Xing helped Gong Sun Huang scrub her whole body, and his heart pounded powerfully. When it came time for little Huang's turn to wash Su Xing's consciousness rendered a bit more dizzy by those soft little hands. Before he avoided an even greater embarrassment, Su Xing hastily ended this married couple's bath. Immediately afterwards, they came to the Longevity Palace's training field. The moon was a mirror, its brilliance radiant. Gong Sun Huang after the bath parted her hair, wafting a delicate fragrance, letting off a mature beauty. Your Highness, Gong Sun Huang confirmed. We'll seize the chance while you still have your inspiration. Give it all you've got. Su Xing was earnest. Gong Sun Huang gently nodded. As she spoke, her hand beckoned forth the pine-brand ancient sword and used wind rolls the clouds. Several thousand thin rays of light became thick as cups. Under Gong Sun Huang's sword, they rolled towards Su Xing, completely surrounding him, quickly spinning around. A sparkling hurricane flowed dizzying. Su Xing did not dare be careless and summoned Heavenly Abyss for defense. Wind rolls the clouds was intercepted by Su Xing. Then Su Xing snapped his fingers. The air shook, and a thunderbolt continuously shot out of his fingers. Rays of purple chi mixed with thick lightning bolts and rolled in an array, squeezing in together towards Gong Sun Huang from all sides. This was Su Xing's purple mansion Immortal Thunder. Seeing that Su Xing was serious, Gong Sun Huang did not evade. She allowed the purple mansion Immortal Thunder to close in. Bang, bang, bang. There were 10 consecutive explosions. Multicolored light swelled. Gong Sun Huang weaved a barrier. Su Xing only felt a certain enormous defensive force counterattack. He thought to himself, little Huang's not bad. His body could not help but be sent flying by this force. He fiercely flew backwards. The star magic on Gong Sun Huang's pine-brand ancient sword then burst forth. A pursuit that did not stop to breathe. Su Xing's reactions were slow by a step, and he was struck. Flying away, he forcibly held back the blood in his throat. Your Highness, little Huang, use your full power to attack. Su Xing shouted. In actuality, he was already completely spent, however. For the sake of allowing little Huang to regain her spirits, he was barely able to bring out full power. Gong Sun Huang waved her hand, shattering the purple mansion Immortal Thunder, and even reflecting it back. Su Xing knew little Huang's might, but he did not anticipate she could surprisingly do this. It appeared that she not one bit inferior to Gong Sun Juqing. However, Su Xing was not in a great rush. A lotus flower bloomed behind him, and Purple Fiend soared. He used the meditative mind lotus flower and Purple Fiend at the same time. Seeing the Purple Fiend attack, Gong Sun Huang waved her sword, increasing her star energy. Not daring to directly block it, her foot stamped, and she became a rainbow. Not bad, not bad. Su Xing smiled. Just when Gong Sun Huang was about to leave, Su Xing already quickly appeared where she had just been, still thinking of seizing the chance for a sneak attack. He could not help but praise Gong Sun Huang's sharpness. Gong Sun Huang again unleashed star magic. This time was cloud-traveling azure dragon turn. The surroundings clouds took on a dragon's form, scratching with sharp claws and fangs. At this time, Gong Sun Huang gripped the pine-brand ancient sword. The sword's tip released multicolored light, and pointing forward, the entire space was filled with it. The azure dragon of cloud rolled wherever the light was, wave after wave, large as a mountain. Gong Sun Huang stood in the radiant multicolored light, refined, not uttering a word as she pointed her sword directly at Su Xing. Su Xing raised his body. The meditative mind lotus flower bloomed, activating the Buddhist defensive power. Several dozen enormous golden lotuses blossomed in mid-air, facing the approaching cloud-traveling azure dragon turn as they floated around inside it. At the same time, Su Xing rushed at Gong Sun Huang, not using any technique whatsoever. This was a contest of pure strength. This momentum was exceptionally fierce. Although this was only a test, Gong Sun Huang did not dare be overconfident. She changed formation, evading continuously in the multicolored light. She pointed her sword, carrying 10,000 zhang multicolored light that slashed directly at Su Xing from the front. Su Xing's meditative mind lotus flower swayed in the wind. It was the size of a mountain, yet it dueled with the rolling 1,000 zhang of multicolored light. Several dozen talismans were used in Su Xing's hand, directly pounding towards Gong Sun Huang in front of him. Gong Sun Huang flew up with her sword. That 10,000 zhang multicolored light rolled into a hurricane, forcefully blowing the glowing talismans away, not allowing them to get close. The two of them entered an increasingly frenzied state. Su Xing began close quarters, using martial force to continuously pressure Gong Sun Huang. Gong Sun Huang and Su Xing were nearly the same, both somewhat exhausted after undergoing the second Overlord's trial. However, when a magic energy star general tired, her weakness was very clear. But Su Xing's all-or-nothing attack was finally not wasted. Gong Sun Huang was in a completely excited state. After several exchanges, Su Xing already felt his vision go fuzzy. He was extremely fatigued, but seeing Gong Sun Huang already had her foot in the door, he forcefully shouted, "Little Huang, use your earth rank to decide the victor." Gong Sun Huang did not say anything more. She floated in the air, and began to wave her sword. The multicolored lights became a line, linking with her chi. Su Xing's forehead burned, and a star crest flashed. Gong Sun Huang's star crest dazzled in emergence, forming a beautiful phoenix that flapped its wings. Su Xing's whole body relaxed. The corner of his mouth smiled, and he did not attack any further. Gong Sun Huang shut her eyes and completely immersed herself in the construction of star magic. Multicolored light rolled around the girl's whole body, like a mantle of multicolored light. Bright flames surged, instantly wrapping Gong Sun Huang. In Su Xing's eyes, Gong Sun Huang bathed in divine flames. That enormous blaze already ignited into sky-covering wings. Su Xing showed astonishment. What a beautiful technique. The training field was already filled with crimson light. Even the entire Longevity Palace was enveloped within. The other girls were already drawn over to the outside of the drilling field, and stared dumbstruck at Gong Sun Huang's transformation. Has Sister Little Huang comprehended her earth rank technique? Sure, Yuwen said blankly. Precisely. Wu Xinjie said. For the sake of helping Gong Sun Huang be able to quickly comprehend her earth rank, Su Xing simultaneously tapped Gong Sun Huang's star crest on his forehead, imbuing her with his star energy, but his magic energy was practically depleted and somewhat exhausted. At this moment, his whole body suddenly warmed, and his star energy inconceivably restored. And Suwen activated her star magic to replenish Su Xing's star energy. Su Xing spotted the other beauties and smiled at them. There was a quiet sound, and the stars shook. This was a spectacular scene, one already incapable of being described with words. Gong Sun Huang suddenly opened her eyes. The little girl was already engulfed in flames. Her back had two giant blazing wings. Flames as magnificent as gems swept over her whole body as she suddenly charged towards Su Xing. She spread her wings to a length of several dozen li long. There was a phoenix cry. Astonishingly, she was like a phoenix. The world sunk into absolutely beautiful despair. Earth rank technique. Phoenix execution sky break. The Gongsun Huang that had transformed into a phoenix flew straight at Su Xing. With this level of might, perhaps a transforming star of annihilation level cultivator would be wary, but Su Xing's expression did not change. The corner of his lips even curled as he contrarily smiled. The phoenix transformation Gongsun Huang was beautiful to the extreme, her self-confidence at its peak. Just when she was about to slam into Su Xing, the world suddenly dimmed and the jewel flames extinguished. Gongsun Huang cooed, pouncing into Su Xing's embrace. Although she was very tired, she wore a never-before-seen satisfaction. Su Xing warmly hugged her. "Your Highness." Gongsun Huang softly mumbled, resting her head against Su Xing's chest. Her hands tightly gripped Su Xing's clothes, not wanting to let go. Are these thousand-year tears? The second day, the distance to the treasure banquet was already no more than a few days away. Su Xing also prepared to start increasing his cultivation. In the trial of the second star duel's overlord, although Su Xing completely won against Yuwen Xingliang, he was deeply aware of the immense disparity in cultivation. If he was able to reach Supervoid at that time, perhaps he could have had more leeway facing Gongsun Zhuqing. Now the third overlord was even more dangerous, so Su Xing naturally could not sit and wait for death. Watching Yuwen refine the thousand-year tears, Su Xing took in a deep breath. The great good fortune pills are best given to milord. Shi Yu at this time looked at the dragon snake great good fortune pill with a bit of conflictedness. Su Xing originally had Zhang Yuqi steal this dragon snake great good fortune pill. Afterwards, although Zhang Yuqi and Su Xing signed a contract, the damaged star no longer needed it. Su Xing felt he had no need to ingest the dragon snake great good fortune pill when he himself had the thousand-year tears. Shi Yu now was near breakthrough to Supervoid stage and just happened to need it. Furthermore, Zhang Feiyu also was Zhang Yuqi's elder sister. Passing it on to her was obvious. To say nothing that the relationship between Shi Yu and him was not normal. At the current stage, Supervoid Star Masters are increasing in number. Shi Yu, you should take it yourself. You also need to look after yourself properly. Only then will I be relieved. Su Xing shook his head. But Shi Yu has already received the prehistoric spirit treasure dual modes ruler that milord gave. Shi Yu knew that Su Xing clearly had even greater troubles, and she was slow and uncertain. Zhang Yuqi playfully said, "Elder sister Shi Yu, if the gap between your strength and young Su's is too big, you'll be abandoned by young Su." Shi Yu gasped. Su Xing rolled his eyes at the damaged star. "This is obviously false. But I can never selfishly raise my own strength. You'd better take it. In the future 7 Stars Assembly, things will be even more dangerous." Shi Yu, just agree. You do not want to become a burden on young lord, do you? Wu Xinjie mockingly said. Shi Yu understood and nodded. Shi Yu will not disappoint milord. Next was to take the medicine and enter secluded cultivation to shoot straight into the legendary highest level of cultivation in Liangshan continent, Supervoid stage. Su Xing sat upright and still, ingesting the thousand-year tears. After the thousand-year tears entered his throat, a clear flow seeping to the bottom of his heart suddenly washed through his whole body's meridians. That type of a faintly warm flow made Su Xing feel a sense of rebirth. Su Xing promptly began to circulate the cultivation method, making the thousand-year tears flow several cycles inside his body. A moment later, after the thousand-year tears completely flowed through his whole body's meridians, Su Xing began to make the star energy in his body dissolve into the thousand-year tears. His ocean-like star energy was suffused, instantly flooding his whole body. Su Xing's heart shivered, but only for an instant. His cultivation had already reached the peak of supercluster late stage, which truly was lightning speed. His star energy that was as boundless as the sea surged and flowed inside his body. His blood vessels and meridians were filled, and his internal organs were even more stuffed. Su Xing only felt his whole body was about to explode. He knew this was the characteristic of supercluster peak. He needed to use every kind of method to make the star energy in his body that was completely unbearable to truly combine with him. By the time the star energy in his body was thoroughly empty, This meant he had entered the most powerful supervoid stage. His star energy was like the sky, a vast and boundless powerful cultivation. But to enter supervoid stage required much experience, an extremely difficult process. Liangshan continent's majority of cultivators often were unable to advance past supercluster late stage, and dissolving star energy was a very slow process. The slightest inattentiveness could meet with backlash, a star energy explosion that could destroy the cultivator at the same time. Su Xing already knew that he could neither be too fast nor too slow. He adjusted his mentality and used the heart-like mirror's highest realm to begin harmonization. Outside the immortal's abode, the girls were currently pacing back and forth in extreme worry. Can Su Xing break through to supervoid stage? Sure, Yuwen nervously said. With the 1,000-year tears, this should not be a problem. Hua Wanyue was dismissive. Wu Xinjie was not as optimistic. Xinjie hears that to enter supervoid stage, one must first of all be able to be accustomed to supercluster peak's powerful star energy, in order to be able to slowly transform it into a void. For one like young lord to directly jump from supercluster middle stage to supervoid is perhaps somewhat sudden. Are you saying it is impossible? Make mental preparations for this. Wu Xinjie was stern. In actuality, there was another reason Su Xing's star generals were numerous. To support 11 contracted star generals required apportioning the star energy. Even if they could receive star energy at the moment of signing a contract, it would become an utterly inadequate measure in later stages. Maintaining 11 star dual covenants required enormous levels of star energy. The truth was that the strength of Su Xing himself was already comparable to supervoid early, maybe even middle stage. The other girls knew the reasons and were somewhat silent. Sisters, we need not think too much. Young lord has never complained before. He, even when he was Stardust stage, was very willing to contract every one of the sisters. Wu Xinjie said in jest. I actually do not doubt one bit that man's ambitions. Hua Wanyue indifferently said. All of the girls laughed, and the atmosphere greatly improved. 1 day passed. 2 days passed. On the 5th day, Xiyu already emerged from seclusion. As expected, the great good fortune pill allowed for an easy breakthrough. The girl's cultivation already reached supervoid early stage, and she became a supervoid cultivator. Seeing that Su Xing had still not emerged, the Xiyu who had originally been excited from the bottom of her heart began to worry. In the blink of an eye, for 1 week, the immortal's abode was still completely silent, and the treasure banquet was already about to begin. Just when all of the girls were restless, finally on this day, the gates slowly opened. A powerful air directly swept into their lungs, intimidating the space. All of the girls were stifled. Su Xing shut one eye, walking out as if he had taken a big nap. Su Xing. Sure, Yuwen excitedly leapt forth. You're all here, huh? Su Xing smiled. Young master, you. Lin Yingmei looked Su Xing up and down. Wu Xinjie's eyes glittered and her whole body shuddered in excitement. Young lord, you entered supervoid stage? Su Xing nodded. Supervoid stage cultivation honestly was too terrific. Su Xing completely could not feel a difference in the flow within his body. His entire person seemed to have become one with the world. He had truly reached the so-called realm of oneness of heaven and man. A kind of rich feeling of incomparable satisfaction made Su Xing have a sort of dignity just by lifting a finger. This was a supervoid cultivator. Xiyu, you're also supervoid, that's great. Su Xing happily said. Xinjie, has the treasure banquet started? Nearly, however, young lord, you have stayed for so long, you must properly wash off. Wu Xinjie's eyes turned, craftily speaking. Little E, you go serve young lord in the bath, all right? The knowledge star turned her head, addressing the taciturn Yin Yizhen. No need for this, I can do it myself. Su Xing awkwardly said. If young lord does not allow little E to do this, little E will take this to heart and be moody. Wu Xinjie giggled. These days, all of the girls were concerned with Su Xing's progress. Only Yin Yizhen alone occasionally occupied herself with cleaning the longevity hall, particularly the Huaqing pool. Yin Yizhen was often absent-minded as she cleaned the pool. How could Wu Xinjie not know what the reticent maid was thinking about? Thinking carefully, the more Su Xing's star generals increased, With Little E not fond of talking, she was actually somewhat snubbed. The other ladies also felt this way, and they just nodded in agreement. Hua Wanyue very much wanted to utter aloud shameless man. But seeing Lin Yingmei's happy appearance, she swallowed this back down. Inside the Huaqing pool, Su Xing was unclothed. Yan Yizhen was also only draped in a bath towel. The maid's head wore a flower crown. Her ordinarily cold and indifferent vermilion pupils were full of a rarely seen warmth right now. Her dexterous, slim, white fingers held a towel to wipe Su Xing's whole body. Little E, I've truly troubled you. Little E could not compare to Gongsun Huang. The touch of the maid's fingers tantalized Su Xing's heart. Serving master is something slave servant ought to do. Yan Yizhen calmly replied. I don't feel you should do something like this. Master, are you dissatisfied? No, really? Really, but... Su Xing's breathing quickened, and he took a big breath. But Little E, you're a bit too enthusiastic. Yan Yizhen at this time brought her pink arms from behind him, winding them under Su Xing's arms to hug his chest. Little E stuck her body tightly against Su Xing's. That curvaceous body was something extremely tantalizing, making Su Xing's heart frisky. And Yan Yizhen's service technique was so brilliant. A pair of skillful hands gently brushed past every inch of Su Xing's skin, making Su Xing receive a great provocation. Little E, Su Xing moaned. Master, please do no resist. Yan Yizhen was tender. One hand suddenly left Su Xing's chest. Before Su Xing could breathe a sigh of relief, out of the corner of his eye, he suddenly spotted a white towel floating on the pool's water. Su Xing was stunned. A soft chest immediately squeezed tightly onto his back. The scorching hot touch on his skin was even more intense, and he could particularly feel those two distinct points on the girl's breasts. Yan Yizhen began to rub up and down along Su Xing's body as she stuck to it. This overwhelming skinship drove Su Xing nearly mad. The maid used her own body to slowly comfort him. Su Xing was both pleasured yet also conflicted. His lower body was already erect. Little E, why are you doing it like this? Slave servant should. Has master not done even more intimate things with the other elder sisters? Could it be you despise slave servant? Yan Yizhen's hands wrapped around Su Xing's shoulders. Like a vice grip, the maid's vermilion pupils were already full of unfocused passion. The rubbing of her body was even more passionate, and Su Xing already could feel every last inch of curvaceous skin on Yan Yizhen's whole body. Does master love slave servant? Yan Yizhen was at a loss. Of course. Su Xing nodded, not turning back. Yan Yizhen said nothing. When her rubbing came to between Su Xing's thighs, a burst of qi and blood charged into his forehead, making Su Xing no longer able to maintain control. He turned around and looked at the maid in front of him. Yan Yizhen, who was like a rose in spring rain, displayed a never-before-seen of unfocused eyes, hazy passion that did not lack allure. Her completely naked, snow-white body was plainly visible to Su Xing's eyes. Her moist red lips slightly parted, filled with a melancholic pity. Su Xing lowered his head to kiss those gentle lips. The pair embraced in the Huaqing pool, pulled their bodies even closer, winding their tongues around each other, exchanging saliva. Yan Yizhen felt that stiff scorching between her legs. She was already aroused. Master, do you want slave servant? We can't. Su Xing preserved his last bit of clarity, although he indeed very much wanted to be beastly. Wait until we ascend Maiden Mountain. We have a lot of time in the future. We don't have to hurry this, right? Slave servant obeys master. Yan Yizhen's breath was gossamer. The two of them kissed again. Each of their hands already were unfettered. Su Xing grasped Little Yi's towering jade peaks, uncontrollably kneading them. Little E let out an enchanting voice, as if she was singing. Her hands at the same time moved along Su Xing's lower body. Little E, young lord, have you finished bathing? Beware of going overboard. Suddenly, a naughty voice came from the entrance. The shuffling of feet drew closer. Su Xing and Yan Yizhen stopped their passionate kiss. Yan Yizhen recovered a bit of sobriety, and her face turned red as a rose. She prepared to leave, but Su Xing did not let her go. With things at the present stage, to come up with an excuse truly ruined the mood. He tightly hugged Yan Yizhen, making the girl lean on his shoulder. Yingmei Xingliang. Su Xing's qi and blood boiled. The steam parted, and 3 beautiful young women walked over. Each was a nation-destroying beauty, completely threadbare. "Dear husband, we have come to help dear husband." Hunyangzi was slightly bashful, shifting her gaze about. Wu Xinjie saw Yan Yizhen and Su Xing's intimate position. She said to the sisters, "Xinjie guessed correctly. Young lord is definitely suffering very much from holding back. Your servant had better leave for now." Lin Weiyingmai covered her body. She was still wearing her bodice, a little hesitant about what would happen next. Su Xing saw Wu Xinjie's crafty wink, and then he knew she was being deliberate. "Master, milady, please enjoy yourselves. Slave servant can serve nearby." Yan Yizhen's face was red. Her eyes recovered her indifference. "Little E, you also caused this trouble." Su Xing perspired. "Don't be noisy." To celebrate young lord entering super void stage, this time, Yingmei, Xinjie and Yangzi shall attend to young lord together. Wu Xinjie pulled the hands of the 2 sisters and jumped into the Huaqing pool. Wu Xinjie then winked at Yan Yizhen, ambiguously saying, "Young lord is but a beast that can never be satisfied. The 3 of us sisters cannot deal with him. At that time, we will need your help, little E." "Slave servant obeys your command." Yan Yizhen lowered her head, her face red. The Huaqing pool immediately filled with moans of nature, bashful panting, and a storm-like party, and no more shall be mentioned of their harmonious content. 2. Zhao Hanyan looked at the ruins in front of her, furrowing her brow. She had come from the queen mother of the Kunlun Mountains, that refined the 1,000-year tears with great difficulty. Even after she had ingested it, she was too late to rush to the Bright Moon Longevity Palace, but the sight before her made the Lingyan princess oddly even somewhat worried. The splendid and spectacular 9 halls of the Bright Moon Longevity Palace were already smithereens. No trace of them was left, and there was a complete lack of any sign of their existence. It seems it really is true. That man truly is exceptional, to surprisingly actually solve the puzzle of the Longevity Palace. Steadfast Star Dong Junqing felt disbelief. They heard a din of hubbub about the Longevity Palace the moment they came down from the Mountain of Immortals. However, this did not make Zhao Hanyan feel happy, because she had also heard about the 10 great sects surrounding the Purple Thunder monster. She recalled that Father Emperor had suddenly sent her on an errand to Kunlun. She immediately deduced the ins and outs of the situation, and her heart was somewhat furious. "Princess Highness, there is no need to be angry with Emperor Liang." "Dong Junqing, can it be you have forgotten the intertwined branch between this princess and Su Xing?" "Princess, in this encirclement, Su Xing has not only obtained the Longevity Palace, he has obtained many gains from this great sect encirclement. You ought to thank Emperor Liang for this, correct? That man has star generals like Lin Chong, and the 10 great sects have nothing more than a bunch of idiot jesters." Dong Junqing pursed her lips. She snorted, appearing somewhat disgruntled that Su Xing's skills had outshined again. Zhao Hanyan was without a choice. This princess wonders where Su Xing is. However, the treasure banquet is about to begin. We ought to be able to see him. We can worry about things then. Zhao Hanyan could not help curling the corner of her lips as she recalled that man. Just as the 2 of them were about to leave. At this time, an escape light came from the sky. 4 figures appeared several hundred meters away. Zhao Hanyan and Dong Junqing narrowed their eyes and stared at their counterparts. Those 4 people were 2 men and 2 women, but their composition was very odd. One was a tall and powerful man, and a woman of imperious coldness. The other was even stranger. One was a reserved old man, whose grandeur was introverted yet was extremely powerful. However, what drew Zhao Hanyan and Dong Junqing's attention was the woman beside the old man. That woman's face had a beautiful blue flower-shaped birthmark. Her other aspects, like her jade crown, her fair skin, the white clothes she wore, her eyes that were still as water, the person was as indifferent as a chrysanthemum. After she glanced at Zhao Hanyan and Dong Junqing, she wordlessly lent an arm to support the old man. This woman was not a servant. Zhao Hanyan could feel that type of imposing air. Star General. Could that man be a Star Master? But they had never heard of a Star Master that was an old man. Zhao Hanyan was very confused. The contractors after the star duels began were all cultivators that had been born at the same time of the star duels. They were practically all very young. Even if there was a couple old people, there absolutely would be none that a star general would care about, because this meant that old person would be considerably mediocre. We were late a step. The longevity palace truly has been snatched away. Xiang Qinxing said in a low voice. Young master, there seems to be a sister in front of us. The domineering woman next to Xiang Qinxing naturally was his star general, little conqueror Zhou Tong. Xiang Qinxing looked at Zhao Hanyan. His eyes narrowed. Zhao Hanyan's cultivation at this time had reached supervoid stage, so she was among the top ranks in the Azure Dragon territory. Li Yigong slightly smiled. He subtly hinted to Xiang Qinxing. Xiang Qinxing and Zhou Zhiyun then did not hesitate to advance. Zhao Hanyan could discern that old man's background seemed very significant. Seeing they did not dare be careless as well, the corner of Dong Juanqing's lips curled into a sneer, and then she made preparations. Supervoid Star Master? Zhao Hanyan saw clearly that her opponent's cultivation was the same level, shocking her. She had never seen this unfamiliar face. From whence did this genius pop out of? You must be the famous Xingliang princess? Xiang Qinxing stiffly said. Zhao Hanyan coldly eyed him. Who are you? Your servant is Xiang Qinxing. Xiang Qinxing answered. Oh what? You wish to star duel? Zhao Hanyan saw Xiang Qinxing's muscles were stretched taut, displaying his hostility. She thoughtfully smiled. Young master, leave this to Zhiyun. Zhiyun really wants to fight elder sister. Little conqueror Zhou Zhiyun raised that flowing water-green depth spear, laughing. Without another word, Zhou Zhiyun launched her assault. The ranked 87th empty star little conqueror Zhou Tong is so savage? Dong Junqing licked her lips. Then allow elder sister to properly teach you a lesson. Saying this, she raised her dragon phoenix Yin-Yang double spears and lunged forward. Xing Qinxing took no action, so Zhao Hanyan did not make any moves either. She completely disdained to lift a finger, but she stared at that free and easy old man and the indifferent woman. Compared to this impulsive and crude man, that old man made Zhao Hanyan even more wary. Boom! An enormous noise shot straight into the heavens. The entire earth violently shuddered, as if several hundred kilograms of explosives had detonated. A thick airflow skyrocketed. The little conqueror was aggressive. The flowing water-green depth spear brandished a heavy stab, and her figure was exceptionally swift. Her martial arts mastery made Dong Junqing considerably surprised. This lesson will be even more interesting. The airflow danced in the sky. The mingling dust turned black, and then little conqueror Zhou Zhiyun abruptly appeared. Her figure was in midair, her hand gripping her spear, slashing downwards. Everything the green spear light simultaneously sprinkled began to take on the form of a green, warrior-like golem. 3 dark rank spear technique. Green soldier slash. 5. That green warrior's spear light then pounced towards Dong Junqing. The intense quaking very quickly ceased. Despite the pervasive dust, Zhao Hanyan still could notice that the place Dong Junqing had been at had already become a hole that was 2 zhang in diameter. The inside was pitch black, its depth completely indiscernible. This first attack was more severe than she had imagined. It appeared this star general had trained extensively in her martial arts. Junqing, if you lose, this princess will make you attend to Su Xing. 6. The dust gradually faded away. The scene in the middle also cleared up. Dong Junqing snorted. She jealously said, Then if this general wins, can I enjoy princess? Ever since Su Xing and Zhao Hanyan started a relationship, she had been starving for a while. The enormous hole was like a bottomless pit. The blackness was shocking to see, and it was very difficult to imagine what power this was to be able to create this terrifying destruction. Perhaps even Dong Juanqing's full power strike could not do this. Before Zhou Zhiyun's complacent smile could last for too long, the corner of her mouth stiffened. She was shocked to see that her own yellow rank technique had been caught by Dong Junqing using her double spears. The beautiful dragon phoenix Yin-Yang spears danced with a brilliant light. Impossible! She blocked the green soldier slash without even using a special move? Hey, is this your full power? Dong Junqing sneered. Then it is truly too weak. With a blink-like attack rhythm, Dong Junqing then arrived in front of Little Conqueror Zhou Zhiyun. Spear light flashed flying. Little Conqueror Zhou Zhiyun felt her mouth. There was a slightly bitter taste. She was wounded? Can't be complacent. Little Conqueror Zhou Zhiyun was cold as absolute zero, suddenly launching. The green spear light wrapped around Little Conqueror Zhou Zhiyun, making her imposing appearance turn into a dignified warrior, her pigtails fluttering. Little Conqueror Zhou Zhiyun's every attack was sufficient to stir up a deathly gale. The Zhao Hanyan spectating from the side had no choice but to retreat so as to avoid being touched by the wind. Bang! The pitiful earth once again suffered devastation. Under Little Conqueror Zhou Zhiyun's full power attack, it instantly turned into myriad shards and fragments. A great amount of dust rose up. Little Conqueror Zhou Zhiyun's figure of a high-ranking general already charged out from within. The surrounding fine dust seemed to be stirred by a giant, invisible hand. Following her movements, they instantly became countless tiny points of light that madly pelted down towards Dong Junqing. Those tiny spear tips were like rain covering the entire space, unexpectedly letting out a sharp cry, just like shrieks from hell. They possessed a frightening penetration power. If one were to be covered by an attack like this, perhaps in a single moment, they would become honeycomb. This time, without any doubt, this was Zhou Zhiyun's dark technique. Green spear tip passing through. Thinking fast as lightning, in an instant, that direct and overwhelming attack had already descended right in front of Dong Junqing. This attack style perhaps could make other star generals feel shock, but Dong Junqing was one of the 5 tiger generals. She completely did not place this in her eyes. Xiangqianqing's whole body stiffened. His skin was like gold, hard as iron. True spirit flying swords slashed in front of him, letting out metallic clangs that surprisingly were not ineffective. Zhao Hanyan's eyebrows rose, showing curiosity. The Lingyan princess once again pointed. She had inherited Dong Junqing's innate skill double swords. This innate skill could allow flying swords to manifest in double the number for a short time. The 72 heavenly outer void flying immortal swords suddenly emerged, altogether becoming 144 top-notch flying swords. Zhao Hanyan chanted. A sword array took shape, once again entangling Xiangqianqing. In the blink of an eye, this rigid man fell into the middle of the sword array. Zhao Hanyan urged her sword chant to kill Xiangqianqing. Furthermore, under steadfast star Dong Junqing's yellow technique yin-yang cross-slash, Little Conqueror Zhou Zhiyun resisted. The empty star shouted furiously, and a second pair of pupils opened in her own. This was her innate skill, layered pupils, a shocking development. Layered pupils, that innate skill that purportedly inherits the battle experience of previous generations' star generals, and can substantially increase realm? Dong Junqing was curious, apparently very familiar. The earthly star little sister in front of her raised her realm to 10,000 techniques. Upon using layered pupils, Dong Junqing did not dare slight her. Then Junqing shall properly teach you a lesson. The corner of Dong Junqing's lips rose. She then held her double spears in reverse grip, and suddenly leapt towards her opponent, her expression full of strictness. Elder sister, don't die. Zhou Zhiyun laughed. She opposed the spear light that dropped from the sky. The flowing water-green depths spear raised a red light towards the sky. The instant their weapons clashed, countless blinding sparks sprayed. Slipping past one another, the two once again sunk into a battle. However, this time was somewhat different. Dong Junqing was not as indifferent and heedless as before. Rather, she ran along with her dancing double spears, launching a continuous assault at high speed. It was very difficult to imagine how swift the steadfast star's speed was. The dragon and phoenix yin-yang spear seemed to be one with her, each maneuver deadly. In a direct confrontation, the attack frequency of either side in a high-speed battle would greatly decline, and the only thing needed was for running footwork. The double spears used could alternate to firmly hold an advantage over the opponent, allowing her to fully display all her power. Zhou Zhiyun's flowing water-green depths lost the spear distance advantage to this. Then, she was brought along at high speed by Dong Junqing, again losing her position. Little Conqueror's face became very unsightly. She hesitated to prepare to mount her star beast for assistance when at this moment, Dong Junqing stopped. Her double spears came together, and 2 killing intents shot out of the dragon and phoenix Xingliang spear to entangle Zhou Zhiyun. Dong Junqing took advantage of this to instantly bring the dragon and phoenix Xingliang spears before her, and the double spears heavily stabbed. Dark technique. Luan Phoenix Cry Dragon Slaying Cave. Zhou Zhiyun shouted, and her abdomen was pierced by the double spears. This Zhou Zhiyun was worthy of being called an extremely high-realm earthly star general. Even so, she still raised her spear and flew backwards, breaking away from the double spears. Dong Junqing clicked her tongue. Before Zhou Zhiyun could take a breath, chills suddenly ran down her back. Out of the corner of her eye, the 72 Outer Void Flying Immortals' swords took a graceful arc that already had calculated her trajectory. The flying swords flocked up. Zhou Zhiyun had lost the initiative, and she was completely powerless as she immediately was dispatched into the star next. Zhao Hanyan's lips curled. Her hand pointed. The 72 Outer Void Flying Immortals' swords spiraled around him. Xiang Qinxing's head hurt. He broke free of the sword array. This man was practically like a monster. Zhao Hanyan noticed that her flying swords were surprisingly unable to kill him. Interesting. Zhiyun. Xiang Qinxing saw that Zhou Zhiyun had been slain by coordinated teamwork, and he burned with fury. Does the little bandit believe he can play the hero by being angry? Dong Junqing rushed over, gripping her double spears. She actually thought of testing whether it was this man's golden body or her 4-star destined weapon that was stronger. Xiang Qinxing pupils widened, changed color, and he instantly explosively let out a powerful fury. It shook Zhao Hanyan and Dong Junqing several steps back. This man's cultivation in that instant had surprisingly seemed to advance several levels. Demon Qi? Zhao Hanyan instantly caught whiff of a demonic presence. Qinxing. A calm voice. Xiang Qinxing's fury quelled in a split second. The man recovered his composure and retreated to that old man's side. Grandfather Li's hand held a paper fan, gently fanning himself. Though his face wore an old man's benevolent smile, Zhao Hanyan felt only unease no matter how she looked at him. The Lingyan princess retracted her scorn. Compared to the man just now, this old man before her that she completely could not see through was even more worthy of her fear. Tai Sui. Xiang Qinxing was a bit bitter. No matter, you are not her opponent. Grandfather Li indifferently said. The implication was that even if he was to use his true body, he would only be dispatched by the Lingyan princess. Xiang Qinxing's expression was gloomy. He could not help but concede on this irritating fact. To have self-awareness is best. You ought to make your move. This princess actually wishes to see. Zhao Hanyan disdainfully glanced at him. The old man smiled. His grin made Zhao Hanyan very uncomfortable. There was no arrogance or contempt, but that tranquility made Zhao Hanyan very uncomfortable. That was a sort that seemed outside of her sight, not the grin of someone that was her opponent. You are not this old man's opponent either. Grandfather Li said. So old yet talking so big is certainly not good. Zhao Hanyan pointed her finger. The Outer Void Flying Immortals' swords immediately attacked. Yet upon seeing that old man gently shake that paper fan, the 72 Outer Void Flying Immortals' swords seemed to be constrained by invisible strings, firmly trapped in that old man's surroundings and struggling. Arcs of lightning glitter on the swords, and Zhao Hanyan put all of her strength to releasing her divine intent control. Beads of sweat slid down her head. Grandfather Li coldly smiled. When Dong Junqing saw that Hanyan had been trapped, she suddenly was enraged. She raised her spear and flew. Old but not dead, take this. The calm as a dry well Zijin next to the old man raised her brow and suddenly vanished. Ha! Dong Junqing was shocked. Suddenly, she saw that woman had instantly changed orientation like a phantom. She flashed over, and in several movements, she was in front of Dong Junqing. The steadfast star had not expected her speed to be so abnormal. She was just about to block with her double spears, but an even faster shadow seemed to leap out from the woman's slender white finger, and then vanish again. Dong Junqing's throat froze. Her whole body was ice cold. How can this be? Dong Junqing was lifeless. Zijin flew behind Dong Junqing. The entire process was no longer than the blink of an eye, and even Zhao Hanyan did not see clearly what move she made. Then her head hurt, and her complexion paled. It is you. Dong Junqing covered her throat. Blood spilled between her fingers. The steadfast star glanced at Zhao Hanyan. Princess, hurry and run. She suddenly pounced on Zijin. Zijin's long hair fluttered, as if it was a waterfall parting. The woman was calm as a flower. Her body prostrated, and her right arm stretched. A shadow was already in her hand. The pouncing Dong Junqing suddenly vanished without a trace, entering the star nest. Junqing. Zhao Hanyan cried out in pain, incapable of believing that Dong Junqing would surprisingly be defeated instantly in one strike. Looking again at that woman, beneath her calm-as-water appearance was a fully terrifying presence like that of a beast. You are, Zhao Hanyan grit her teeth. Just as she was about to finish speaking, at this moment, a purple array suddenly activated beneath her feet. This array was flooded with strange characters, and the inside had a bizarre demon beast-like pattern. Countless arcs of purple electricity shot out of the array. These purple lights were not harmful at all, but Zhao Hanyan immediately felt that the surrounding space had been interfered with by this electricity, incapable of opening. To think of escaping from under this old man's lightning flash thunder barrier, that will have to depend on how powerful you are. Grandfather Li gently fanned himself. This magic was clearly his doing. That old man just now had been preparing this magic all along. Zhao Hanyan's heart was jolted. This trick, even in all of the Azure Dragon territory, she had never heard of it before. Just what was the background of this old geezer? Little girl, it is best if you die here. Grandfather Li looked at Zhao Hanyan. Zhao Hanyan forced herself to keep aware of time. A supervoid force burst forth, but the lightning flash thunder barrier immediately changed colors, obstructing Zhao Hanyan. Zijin slowly walked toward Zhao Hanyan. If this princess dies, then this princess man will certainly be very troubled. Zhao Hanyan sneered. Oh, the Lingyan princess has a man now, does she? Grandfather Li smiled. Oomph. Zhao Hanyan shot him an ice-cold glare. She sneered, and a purple jade pendant appeared in her hand. It cracked and purple vapors spilled out. Grandfather Li's fanning motion immediately accelerated when he saw this. An explosion of thunder dropped from the sky and smashed heavily onto Zhao Hanyan. The Lingyan princess screamed, suffering immensely. Zijin instantly accelerated. With several bounds, she was in front of her. She pulled her right hand back, suddenly drawing a black sword shadow. The purple chi ripped. Zhao Hanyan suddenly vanished, with no trace of her detectable in 100 li. This is the purple star jade pendant. Grandfather Li laughed. To be even capable of breaking this old man's lightning flash thunder barrier, Maiden Mountain is truly impressive. What a pity that grandfather used the lightning flash thunder barrier, and still allowed Princess Lingyan to escape. Xiang Chunxing said in a low voice. She received this old man's Azure Life 9 turns Thunder Dipper 3, and is heavily injured, her cultivation greatly debilitated. For the time being, we need not worry about her. Grandfather Li laughed. It seems the star duels still are a bit interesting. The Lingyan princess was the Azure Dragon territory's top-notch star master. Therefore, Grandfather Li wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to first kill of Zhao Hanyan in a single stroke. However, he did not expect that she would have the purple star outlaw Liangshan jade pendant. Let us go. Grandfather Li's fan fluttered. He stepped into a cloud of rolling thunder, and immediately vanished from this place. Su Xing currently in the Immortals' abode being freshened up by his wives. He was preparing clothes to make ready for his participation in Liangshan's Crystal Dragon Palace treasure banquet. Just at this moment, an intense pain racked his body. His organs seemed to tear apart, and Su Xing grabbed onto the corner of the table in order to barely stand up. Young lord! Dear husband! The crowd of girls each called out. Each and every one of them wore a face of concern as they watched Su Xing. I'm okay. That instant of heart-wrenching pain seemed to last a century. Su Xing's whole body was already cold, and he powerlessly panted. "Young lord, what happened?" Wu Xinjie asked with grave concern. "It seems a certain kind of contract is exhibiting its function." Su Xing activated heart like mirror and slowly calmed his breathing. The ladies looked at each other in dismay. Each of them showed worried expressions. "It shouldn't be Chai Ling, don't tell me something happened to Hanyan?" Su Xing's mind was stopped up with a huge boulder, somewhat oppressive. His original happy mood and expectation of the treasure banquet instantly vanished into thin air. He saw that his wives were unhappy like him. Su Xing shook his head and once again adjusted his mood. "Don't worry too much. Zhao Hanyan should be fine. The intertwined branches only reacted for a moment just now. Maybe Zhao Hanyan ingested some medicine." Wu Xinjie consoled him. "Well said. Now that the Lingyan princess is the Azure Dragon Territory's #1 cultivator, no one can handle her." "Will she also participate in the treasure banquet?" Hunyangzi asked. Su Xing nodded. "Then immediately go to the treasure banquet and we will know." You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.